government, by the government.
Who's your teacher?
All right. Oh, Mr. Okay.
You're gonna get deaf. Don't let them write it.
Don't do it.
Get an extra 10 now. Hey, Mr. Brown.
Hey, how are you?
Very good. How are you?
I've never had a bad day.
Oh, I heard about you.
I heard about you.
I never had a bad day either. Hey, you probably drink more than normal.
No, that's not true.
That's right.
I think a lot.
Not North Beach.
No.
I'll leave right here. What's up, Mayor? Not much. Mr. Pittibone.
Ready.
Here. Ready. I'm not saying it's usually. I got you nothing. Hey, Todd. Yeah, about it. Councilwoman Rose.
Oh, likewise. Trust me. It's no, it's a weather. It's a
How you
weather.
doing?
Here, how are you? Good. Hey, Mel, how are you? That's it.
Sure. No. Yes, it is. I bet. I know several that will. Who will? Yeah. You, Roger. Okay. How's that truck running?
Busy day.
Busy. You were busy today, and you still have a really long meeting. You watch.
Yep.
This meeting's gonna be long.
And then I gotta get up at 3 and drive to New Hampshire.
How you doing? Good.
waiting for that second to turn 6 o'clock. Get started. I'm talking to you. I'm talking to myself. I want to get a good. Call the state session of City Council to order. Please rise for the invocation followed by a pledge of the flag. Every day, without fame or fanfare, women inspire, support, and strengthen their families, their communities, and our country. Women's History Month in March presents a great opportunity to celebrate the tremendous impact women have and continue to have on our city. American women from all generations and all backgrounds have been an integral part of our prosperity and productivity here in City Hall, and who have made an indelible mark in the heart and soul of our city and our nation. As we meet as a council, let us remember that women are an integral part of our community, and we ask that you watch over them. I call on all Eastonians to celebrate the exceptional women in their lives and around our great city as we celebrate March, Women's History Month. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Brown?
Here.
Mr. Ettinger?
Here.
Mr. Pinnabone?
Here.
Mrs. Rose?
Here.
Dr. Ruggles?
Here.
Ms. Sultana?
Here.
Mayor Panto?
Here.
Approve.
Give my state of the city.
Do we do the
Approval agenda first.
Agenda?
Approval of the agenda. I'll accept the
Move to
motion.
approve.
Move to approve, then second. All in favor? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Ettinger?
Aye.
Mr. Pinnabone?
Aye.
Mrs. Rose?
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
Ms. Sultana?
Aye.
Mayor Panto?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Minutes.
Action on the minutes will do also.
Motion.
Yes.
Motion to approve the minutes. Second. Is it yours or mine?
The cave bear stuff. The PSAC stuff.
Okay. Mr. Pinnabone?
Aye.
Mrs. Rose?
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
Ms. Sultana?
Aye.
Mayor Panto?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Ettinger?
Aye.
State of the city. It is an honor for me tonight to fulfill my duty under the charter to report to the citizens of Easton the state of our city. 18 years into my administration. Karen, you want to turn it down? 18 years into my administration, I'm proud to report that together we have brought positive change to the city of Easton. Tonight, my state of the city is one of celebration and gratitude. Sure, 2024 brought its plethora of challenges, but it was almost also a year of opportunity, innovation, preservation, and growth. I wouldn't be here today without my family, my dedicated wife Pam, who has supported me in good and bad times, and my 97-year-old father, Sal Panto Sr., my 4 children, my 7 grandchildren, 2 brothers, and 1 sister, and many nieces and nephews. When I took the reins in 2008, I declared that our city was fragile. This is what was reported in the papers in 2007, when we had papers. Easton Mayor Phil Mittman announced his plan for the 2008 city budget later this week. Easton has been financially strapped for some time. A budget forecast shows the city faces a $4 million deficit by 2010. Yes, we were fragile. Fragile because in 2008 and 9 we navigated probably the uncertainty of the worst financial situation in the United States since the Great Depression. Because we were on the brink of Act 47, because we navigated through a global pandemic, and fragile because then we faced a looming budget shortfall of $11 million caused by the global COVID pandemic. And fragile because of a host of civic issues that were left unaddressed. Today, Easton is ready. Ready to continue the renaissance we started, ready to rebuild, and ready to continue solving the tough problems we face together every single day. Tonight, we will have an honest conversation about what we are, where we are, and more importantly, where we're heading, and how do we get there. The Finance Department had a busy year. The 2025 budget began with the administration in midsummer. We start our budget deliberations every January. Every month we meet to discuss where we are, what the challenges are, and City Council gets a financial report. The goal, as always, is to prepare the budget with no tax increases for the residents of Easton. The 2025 budget is in excess of $70 million. Of that $70 million, more than 85% is salaries and wages and benefits. Due to prudent management of public funds, the general fund revenues exceeded expenditures again in 2024, so we are forecasting another budget surplus. Revenues were up in the earned income tax and non-resident earned income tax, as well as increases in rental licensing, business tax, parking, and casino revenue, which are stabilizing after COVID. Remember, those 2 years we didn't get anything from the casino was closed down. A solid economic development strategy continues to increase our assessed value, which increases our revenue from real estate taxes without increasing the amount paid by Eastonians. We have not raised real estate taxes in 18 years. So imagine if you pay $5,000 a year in taxes today, you'd be paying about $15,000 if we went up every year like we were. A big thank you to our residents and business who stayed the course even in the bad years of the 20th and early 21st centuries. Our city would not be here without city workers and labor union partners that represent them. It's a gift to serve alongside them every day. It may be hard to believe, but our city administrator, Mr. Campos, has been here in almost 9 years.
Oh,
Think about it.
Yeah, about right. That's about right.
He's entering his 9th year with us. In addition to his regular duties, the city administrator is also directly responsible for human resources, financing and budgeting, information technology, and public communication. He has shown himself to be able to make the tough and sometimes unpopular decision. He's been a great addition to our team. The administration has maintained full employment throughout the year in our 275 positions. Vacancies were immediately posted and filled as soon as possible, and no consideration was given to holding positions vacant as a result of budgetary pressures as in the past. Like most municipalities across the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, retirements will add pressure to services as longtime employees that we now have are leaving and retiring, and new employees will take their place. In 2024, Human Resources onboarded 46 new hires out of 275. That's a lot of people. Both police and fire departments have maintained full complement and have had addition of new positions, including augmenting fire platoon strength to 16 full-time firefighters to ease the transition of retirements. The fire department has approximately 34% of its complement eligible for retirement. 34%. It's a very high percentage. The administration successfully settles on a 4-year contract with the Fraternal Order Police. The new contract provided for increased wages that would enable the police department to compete with other regional agencies. We were about $10,000 less than some of our surrounding municipalities. As of the writing of this report, the administration is still negotiating with the fire union with the aspiration of settling prior to a mid-July 2025 arbitration date. In 2024, we only had 3 grievances which were received and no grievances turned into arbitration case. We'd rather get along with our employees than fight with them. The city continues to improve information technology operations. When I came here in 2008, there was no IT department and there was no IT throughout the building. They had one email address for the whole entire city. Now everybody has their own email address. The police department with upgrades were completed at the data center of the Easton Police Department with the deployment of a virtualized environment for better performance, scalability, and improved IT operations. Wireless access points were upgraded throughout the City Hall to make it more reliable and secure. New AV equipment was installed for the conference rooms as City Hall for better online collaboration as we have more and more meetings with Microsoft Teams, and Zoom. New AV equipment was installed for the conference rooms at City Hall for better online collaboration. For the 3rd Street garage, the IT department installed security cameras and new printers were installed throughout City Hall for major savings. Public communication, the administration continues its efforts to increase the city's communication efforts. The city realized positive results in engaging with city residents and now has over 25,000 followers on its social media platforms. Many residents are becoming accustomed to receiving city information through the web or email as newspapers continue to go out of business. While traditional methods of communication still exist, the increase in electronic communication has been welcome. I am happy to report that the administration signed a 1-year contract with Blabbermouth Communication to handle all of our public communication. The goals for the 2025 city administrator are to maintain a balanced budget and communicate issues to the mayor on a timely basis, finalize a new lease or sale of the city water facilities, work with finance and controller to improve financial management, update the city's 5-year capital plan, roll out new citywide human resource policies, which has been done, begin negotiations for a new AFSCME contract, and negotiation new lease agreement with the Easton Area Water Authority, or, I'll speak to this later, sell Easton's water assets, which is Plan B. It's not Plan A. Augment communications via newsletter mailed to each household, informing residents of municipal services and important changes affecting our city. I'll mention the message board that Palmer Township has at 25th and Northampton Street. It's really well observed, and people read it while they're stopped at the stoplight. We'll be looking for a major intersection that preferably has a stoplight at all of our neighborhoods so that we can inform our residents better about what we're doing and what affects them. Police. The mantra of our administration back to 2007 was clean and safe. Tonight I am pleased to report that unlike other cities in the country, Easton saw our violent crime rates go down again last year for the 18th year in a row. Thanks to our police officers, our city is safe, and we reduced violent crimes each of the last 18 years. Now, when you look at the report, you're going to see that violent crimes, Part 1 crimes, which are the most violent, increased by 14.93%. But this was driven up primarily by the nonviolent auto thefts, and that's unfortunately. Part 2 crimes decreased by 11.6%, driven mostly by a decrease in weapon offenses and drug offenses. And total calls for service decreased by 2.55%. I'm also happy to report that there were no homicides in 2024. I've said it before and I'll say it again, lawlessness has no rule in the city of Easton. We are a nation of laws, not of men. And I want to thank the Easton police officers for the job they do every day for our residents. It's the police department that's kept our residents safe. And the Easton Police Department continued further education and training of its officers. Every sworn officer received the following instructions: anti-bias training for law enforcement, anti-harassment in the workplace, cultural awareness and diversity, active shooter 1, thank God we haven't had any, active shooter 2, ethics in law enforcement, sexual harassment in the workplace, normalizing common mental health challenges. Our civilian employee is doing a great job in working with our less fortunate, mostly our homeless. She knows every homeless person by name, and she's met with them, and her and Officer Crossan have done a great job of referring them for third-party services, mostly mental health. Our fire department, I'm very proud to stand here and say that Easton maintains a fully paid professional fire department that answers calls for emergency services, not just fires. It's a true rescue department. And we respond, they respond within 2 minutes and 4 seconds. And you know, last year was another year of saving lives and property. And they do a great job. Every one of those men up there, we don't have any women yet, but every one of those men are doing a great job of keeping residents safe and getting there within 2 minutes and 4 seconds at any part of the city. That's great. In 2024, the Easton Fire Department responded to 2,265 calls for service. Now, most of them were not fires, but they were auto accidents, gas leaks, those types of things. They also responded to a multitude of other emergencies, including 33 building fires, 38 cooking-related fires, 530 emergency medical service calls, and the balance of the responses were a variety of fire alarms, false alarms, hazardous materials, motor vehicle accidents, and public service. The Easton Fire Department prides itself on quick and safe responses, with an average time of 2 minutes and 4 seconds. They also responded 22 times to assist our neighboring fire departments. Once in West Easton, 11 times in Wilson Borough, once in Forks Township, 5 times in Palmer Township, twice in Williams Township, and once in Bethlehem Township, and once in Phillipsburg, New Jersey. Mutual aid is very important to our fire department, both for fires inside the city and outside the city. Our fire for prevention program of the fire department covered city schools, Cheston, Easton Arts Academy, March, Paxnosa, and IU-20, all plus the Head Start. Our firefighters interacted with 92 classes for a total of over 2,000 students and 170 teachers. They also held fire extinguisher training class to train employees of several businesses in the city. I cannot, I stand here as the mayor and I have to deal with the IAFF every day, and they have a right. When I was a teacher, I was in the teachers union and I negotiated those contracts. We have a well-disciplined fire department in the city of Easton. It's respected, and training is really important. I'm happy to report that we did not have any civilian casualties because of fire. The city has upgraded its fire equipment, most recently with the arrival of the new pumper, and within the next month, we will take delivery of our new $1.7 million tiller truck. It's a ladder truck because we have buildings that are more than 2 stories high, so we need a ladder truck. This will be the second ladder truck that this administration purchased. We're replacing the one we purchased a few years ago. That was $1 million. This one's $1.2 million, $1.7 million. And I remember when pumpers were about $350,000. I'm old. And I remember when the pumpers were $350,000. You will have on your approval tonight, we hope you approve a new pumper, because it will take 48 months to get that pumper. And it's $1.2 million. We will take delivery of our new tiller truck within the next 2 months, 60 days. And because of the 4-year lag time on new vehicles tonight, we are recommending the council agrees to purchase another $1.2 million pumper. I don't know what the problem is, but everywhere I go, I was at the National League of Cities and we were talking at the advisory board about the length of time it takes to get city equipment. In 2024, the fire department accomplished the fact that they took delivery of the new Pierce engine, trained the personnel, and assigned Engine 4 to Southside. They expanded our pre-fire plan program, the OSFC grant of $20,000 to purchase tools for the new tiller truck. That's $20,000 that won't be coming out of the city pocket. Took delivery of 4 portable and 2 mobile P25 radios with the Monroe County Local Shares grant of $60,000. Hired 5 new firefighters that completed the academy in June, upgraded our fire reporting software, promoted firefighter Joseph Lake to lieutenant, and you saw that. Took delivery of a new deputy chief vehicle, and were awarded the FEMA Fire Prevention and Safety Grant of $98,873 for smoke and carbon monoxide detectors, which will be distributed to our homeowners. They launched our Community Connect program for residents, and the fire department's goal for 2025 include the following: hire and train 4 new firefighters at the Allentown Fire Academy, reduce overtime, lieutenant and captain testing in sometime within the next couple weeks, host several NFPA certification courses, order the balance for our fire service radios, apply for a safer grant to increase staffing and safety, improve department technology with new software to aid in responses, fire inspection program, and take delivery of the new ladder truck sometime in April. Our Community and Economic Development Department. It is often said that the population growth is the ultimate judge of a city's success. All the things you do to build a city ultimately boil down to whether city people want to live there or not. The most recent census data released in May for the first time in 50 years reflects that our population is increasing. We went over the 30,000 mark. It's 30,504, I think, to be exact. When we took office in 2008, Easton had a population of 26,000, and today Easton's population is 30,506 and growing. And when I leave office in 2027, we will top 33,000 people because of the buildings that are going up, mostly in downtown. Still less than the 1950 mark of 35,000, but certainly growing. And with growth comes its challenges. Parking is one challenge. And I don't want to get on that topic tonight because we'll be here for 3 hours. Economic development has topped $1 billion. $1 billion has been invested in this city by the private and public sector. Due to the many factors, but one is the fine professionals, and John Kingsley's here today. He's the director of Community and Economic Development in the city, and his staff is doing a great job. And we thank them because it wouldn't happen without work every day. Right now we're working on several projects that I can't announce tonight, but certainly they're there, and we're looking forward to them. This year we witnessed the completion of the Commodore, the commencement of construction of Watermark, the Marquee, and the Confluence, and the Great Square Hotel will start within the next 60 days. Several others have been currently working on, which will be announced later this year. And just last week we announced the hologram zoo, and I'll talk about that. opening in mid-July. We will add the second of its kind in the United States and the first on the East Coast. Yes, today Easton is greater, better, and more beautiful than it was transmitted to us in 2008. We hit the ground running, and as Governor Shapiro says, we got stuff done. Dedicated, he doesn't use the word stuff, he uses something else. Dedicated city employees are this who make it all possible. Our employees are very important to the city. And as I always tell, and Dave Hopkins is here, the Director of Public Works, they are the group that everybody sees. They have a budget of over $17 million. They're the largest department in the city. They are the group that you go to the park, you go to the festivals, you ride your bike on the trails. They take care of all that, and they do a great job. Our economy is recovering. Our stores and restaurants are full. Our children have improved parks and recreation programs. Our state theater is thriving, and our Crayola experience is attracting more visitors to our city. Our restaurants are fully booked, and Eastonians are back to work. I am proud of our achievements, but we're not done. I want to thank all of you who worked hard to get us to this moment today. I stand before you in these chambers as a city that is home to an international working class community. To say to you, my fellow Eastonians, the state of the city is strong. In 2008, unemployment rate was in the double digits. Our current unemployment rate is 3.3%. Below the current Lehigh Valley rate, which is unusual for Easton, Easton is always higher than Lehigh Valley, of 3.5%, and lower than our November 2024 rate of 3.7%. And last but not least, our partners in elected position in the state. Our governor, you see him on the stage, you see him delivering his vision for our Commonwealth. You are seeing real leadership in this governor. This governor is a steady hand we need at the wheel right now. Thank you, Governor Shapiro. He's fighting for us in Harrisburg. And I can't forget our legislators, Senator Lisa Boscola and Representative Bob Freeman, and our county officials like County Executive Lamont LeClure. Thanks for their leadership, their partnership, and helping us make Easton great again. Our Public Works Department, as I said, had a busy year. In 2024, they completed the Wood Avenue corridor rehabilitation, which is beautiful. I'm getting people actually from the courthouse calling me up to thank us because they get off at 22 and they come down there. The city's active transportation plan, they completed the Cattell Street corridor safety improvements along with Lafayette College. They also, at the intersection realignment of 13th and Bushkill, 4th and Northampton, Larry Holmes Drive and Northampton Street, Larry Holmes Drive and 3rd Street, Bushkill and Snyder Street, 3rd and 7th and Northampton, and the worst intersection in the city is Larry Holmes Drive and 3rd Street. And signs are just put up warning people that if they're going to make a turn, pedestrians have the right of way. We are very fortunate in Easton. We haven't had many, if any, pedestrian accidents that where a person was crossing an intersection was hit. Allentown is seeing a lot of that. We in our new Safe Streets program will address the ones that are bad. Completion of the MS4 installations at Cheston School, county parking lots, and Munchunk Park. Additional safety signage at 3rd and Larry Holmes Drive. Ongoing environmental work. The Public Works Department is involved at the Easton Iron and Metal Project. Continued work on the city's Climate Action Plan initiative, adoption of the Climate Mitigation Addendum to achieve a net zero carbon emissions goal by 2050. You all voted for that goal, and I appreciate it. Coordination of the Bushkill Creek dam removals in the city. And what is it, 3, Dave? Yeah, 3 of them. Coordination with Easton Area School District for improvements to Vanderveer Park, and also the design and construction of Centennial Park, completion of the concept study for a new downtown bicycle pump track and mountain bike facility located at Hackett Park. Reconstruction and upgrade of the Hackett Park ball field, infield, where the infield was completely redone, and I'm getting people are just raving about it. Great job. Putting money back into our park system, which is really important because kids need a safe place to play. Coordination of improvements for Centennial Park, Vanderveer Park, and Westward Pocket Parks. Coordination of Nesquehoning Memorial Committee and Park Improvements Design. I believe that you will get a recommendation from me to name that park the Brother Bright and Mrs. Boyer Memorial Park. I am looking forward to, there are 2 people I believe in the black community that were instrumental in the civil rights movement back in the 60s. I went to school with Mrs. Boyer's children, Maria and Marvin and Teresa, and I always was inspired whenever I met with Brother Bright, and I used to go to St. Anthony's School up on 9th Street, and I would walk home if I had to stay after school, not because I was bad. But I would walk home, and I would stop at Brother Bright's store, and then he moved to Southside, which is now apartments, and I always found his message to be inspiring, and we'll have to talk about that. Installation of citywide in situ form sanitary and storm sewer improvements. They're underground improvements that we need, and I know they're inconvenient. We're going through it right now with MedEd, Verizon, and all the other utility companies, UGI, doing 4th Street and Ferry Street, and it's horrible. I know it's inconvenient, and people, I understand that, and I get all the calls, but it's needed. I have a picture of my house behind my home that blew up from a gas leak. Bad pipes. You don't want that to happen. You don't want it ever to happen. And UGI is under a court order to replace all their mains in the city and laterals that are old. The Public Works Department also completed the capital projects at the wastewater plant and added 200 trees to our urban forest. I know that our residents don't like street trees. Well, the city put it in, why should I have to take care of it? Well, that's the ordinance. I can't help it. But in the next couple of years, I hope that we'll be able to hire a crew to go out and trim those trees so we don't have to worry about it. But right now, I can't send someone to a house to trim a tree or cut it down that we planted because it's not ours. It's put on your I remember back in the 80s when we did Nesquehoning Street. I had a town hall meeting, and we showed the elevations that the people on the north side of the street, in order, the street was at an angle that was really bad. You open your car door and it just fly open. So we wanted to make it level, so we had to put retaining walls on the north side, south side, and on the north side it would be at curb level. Well, everybody agreed to it at the town hall meeting, but when it was done, they weren't very happy with it. So in our planning and codes department, we had redevelopment has continued throughout the city and across our 4 neighborhoods. In 2024, we saw a continued increase in construction permit applications. The reduction in buyer notification inspections is expected in 2025 as fewer and fewer homes are in inventory to be sold. The department received and processed 1,421 construction permits, a 3.72 increase over 2023. The continued development and redevelopment over the past couple of years resulted in 3,706 construction inspections in 2024. A minor rise in property transfers resulting in 388 buyer notification inspection reports, a 23.6 increase over 2023. Other applications processed included 90 certificates of appropriateness, 350 zoning hearings, 63 zoning appeals, 0 property maintenance appeals, and 7 building code appeals. The OpenGov Citizen Services software allowed the department to better serve citizens through ease of access to staff and provide complaints and follow-up. Code enforcement officers investigated 2,400 cases, which resulted in improved neighborhood quality and quality of life tickets. The state of the city is strong, it's unwavering, and it's undaunted. But home is so much more than a house. It's also, although a house is a good start, just ask any of our homeless people, add a park down the street for kids to run around in, make a place where you can put down roots, knowing they'll blossom, surround it with schools that inspire and educate. Home is all those little points of light that give tomorrow its glow. It's the place and the people you refuse to give up on. Thank you all for making Easton your home. We took the helm of Easton in a challenging time in our nation. Violent crime was up, violent activity and shootings were prevalent throughout the city. Young ladies were walking the streets of downtown, not for good reasons. People had a negative outlook on Easton. Street sales of illegal drugs, visitors weren't coming, things weren't good for Easton. We even cleaned up those ladies on the downtown streets. I just won't accept that we have to settle for things the way they've always been. And if we keep challenging the status quo, we will make sure that Easton is a city that puts results and residents first. Today, I am proud to stand here and speak to you about not only our accomplishments of the past year, but also what we are most likely to move forward for in the next year. My friends, our best days are ahead of us because for the first time in years, all of us in this room believe that the 20th century is in the rearview mirror. You know, Easton was a thriving city in the 17th and 18th, in the 18th and 19th century. But something happened in the 20th century. 1950s and 60s, everybody was moving out of cities. They were moving to their little quarter acre of land that they all had in the townships and suburbs. And with the flight to the suburbs also came the flight of businesses. And 25th Street Shopping Center was our first competitor for downtown stores. And everybody went to, because it had an overhang where you could walk from one store to the other without getting wet, I guess. But then all of a sudden they came up with the situation where they started building malls. And the malls put 25th Street Shopping Center out of business. And today it's Amazon and direct delivery to your door. That's putting malls out of business. So, ladies and gentlemen, leaders of the past, present, and future, when we look back on our accomplishments of the year and we aspire to achieve even greater goals in the years to come, as we renew our commitment to one another and as we strive to elevate all of Easton, assessing the state of our city, I can observe with great faith and confidence the state of our city is strong and unyielding. Today, the city of Easton is safer, stronger, healthier than we were last year, and next year we will be safer, stronger, and healthier than we are today because we're doing well. We've taken the historic American Rescue Plan funds from the Biden-Harris administration, and we're putting them to work for Easton. Based on the Mayor's Affordability Housing Task Force, excuse me, we budgeted $4 million for affordable housing, and we included a residential facade program in the amount of $1.5 million to help residents improve the outside of their homes. But it's more than the state of our city. It's about the state of your household. It's about the state of your mind. It's about the state of your neighborhood. Do you look over your shoulder when you're walking after dark? Do you feel pride in your local park? Do you have a peace of mind because you can actually pay the rent? When the answer is yes, then we can all say our state of our city is strong. Address that in 2025, we must address the housing affordability crisis. It's the lack of supply. Your older people can't afford to move into a rental home or a home where they don't have to do any maintenance, so there's no openings for young people to buy a house. So I checked Zillow today, I think we have 3 houses in the city of Easton for sale. And that's the law of supply and demand, economics 101. We need to rise to the challenge of addressing chronic homelessness. Homelessness is not going to be addressed by Easton, but we are doing more for Safe Harbor. Safe Harbor was started by the city of Easton. It's in a building owned by the city of Easton, and their expansion into the building, the private facility next to them, that's not owned by the city, is going to increase their day room. So to give our homeless population a place to go during the day, so they can get out of the elements, whether it's raining or snowing or freezing cold, get them off the streets. But they also need a place to stay at night, and we don't have that facility right now. So, but it's more than our state of our city, it's the state of your household, as I said. We have to address that housing affordability crisis. It's not just an affordability crisis, it's an accessibility crisis. Even the wealthiest people right now, I hear from the CEOs of major companies in the Lehigh Valley that can't attract workers because they can't find a place to stay. They want to buy a house, they can't find a house to stay. A house on College Hill that used to be for $400,000 is now $700,000, and they can't afford it. Mental health and addiction are often the core of homelessness. Behavioral health, mental health, and treatment for substance use disorders are all over all the cities provided by county government. The city does not have a health and human services agency. That's why we partner with the county, and the county has been a very good partner for the city. We must rise to build more housing to bring down the cost of housing. Rise up against the urge to say no because change is scary. Rise up to meet expectations of all our neighborhoods. Rise up to meet and confront the climate crisis. And I love people who say it's not real. It's not real? Let me tell you something. I'll show you how real it is. Rise to reach every opportunity for residents to grow and thrive. This is the United States, where Americans are supposed to be able to work hard and get ahead, not work hard and get further behind. Rise beyond what we have become what I know we can truly be, a truly great city that works for all of us. Real change comes from community. So I knew my first and most important job as mayor was to build an Easton team that Easton deserves. And I think we have one of the best city hall teams around. I mean, our directors don't work 8:30 to 4:30. I can assure you of that. And our directors, are there any other directors here? Just Mr. Kingsley and Mr. Hopkins and Mr. Lisinecki. our finance guy. As we look at the year ahead, our administration is focused on building a green and growing city for everyone. We will be assisting with the expansion of Safe Harbor Homeless Shelter, and we will be helping them. We did help them with some ARPA money, and we'll help them again if they need it. When the Easton Redevelopment Authority was created, it was more than 70 years ago, and my junior and senior year in college, I worked for them during the summer. Its purpose was singular. All they would do was just tear down buildings and sell land. And even if it meant displacing thousands of working class immigrant and black and brown residents. Today, its mission is to create jobs, retain jobs, and expand the tax base and address the housing crisis. Over the last 2 decades, Easton saw the largest building in generations, cranes in the sky and jobs on the ground. Our Southside neighborhood was awarded the 10-year designation as a blueprint community, and the committee meets every month to plan for stabilization of the neighborhood and expansion of locally owned businesses that provide neighborhood services. Pharmacies, grocery stores, bakeries, gas stations. I met with, as City Council may know, the administration fought and worked with the developer, but fought the truck stop that was going to be built just south of Southside in Williams Township. Williams Township doesn't care about what goes there. We do. We know that truck stops are not only places for drugs and illegal activities such as human trafficking, we also know that it's not good for the South Side. So the developer went back and looked for someone else, and I can't tell you who it is right now, but I think we're going to be able to support. Well, I know we can support it because it would put a gas station on the South Side and it would put a convenience store on the South Side. But our designation as a blueprint community is very important. It's a 10-year program, and it was tough to get. The West Ward is seeing an upgrade in all of their parks and the planning for youth and seniors center so young they don't have to worry about playing in the streets. You drive through the West Ward and you're going to see kids playing in the street. That is not a place for kids to play. I mean, the speed on our streets is ridiculous. But you all know I've been trying to fight that and lobby our state legislature for radar for a long time. We haven't gotten it. We've been fighting it for 30 years. In the College Hill neighborhoods, we improved the main traffic corridor. We're working with PennDOT to make improvements to Knox Avenue and Route 611. Tonight, I think it's on the agenda, or maybe I just read it. We're willing to pay the engineering costs for Route 611 north of the city. It's $170,000. But I'll be darned, I'm not paying a dime for the improvements. I'm not going to I'm not going to spend taxpayers' money, city funds, on a state highway. They need to correct it and they need to take care of it. We can't afford it, but we're going to pay for it out of ARPA funds, the engineering. But the engineering is $170,000. Imagine what we could do with our parks with $170,000. Imagine what we could do with traffic improvements. The state of our city is very strong. Local government is strong. And our conviction to continue to keep this momentum is strong. Blessed with a diverse and robust economy, there is very little that we cannot accomplish. Time and again, we prove that we are on the right track. And we do what is right and continue to do what is right to move everyone in our community toward prosperity. We must always remember our past, but we must remember what sorts of things we still need to improve our collective future. Cities are in a constant change of evolution, constantly changing. What was right in 1960 is not correct in 2025. Right here, we had all kinds of opposition to a 7-story building, but right next door to it was a Drake building that you'll see a slide that was 6 stories. You know, back in the 1920s and 30s, Easton was growing. In 1900, Easton was the largest of the 3 cities in Lehigh Valley. Check it. We were building the Hotel Easton, 11 stories. We were building the Alpha building, 9 stories. We were building the 401 building. We were building all these big buildings were going up, and everybody said, yeah, look at Easton, it's growing. But today you build up a big building and all kinds of complaints. I'm not a purist when it comes to preservation. I'm a pragmatic preservationist. And what that means is anything that's practical. Cities are constantly changing. And the city of today is not going to be the city of 2050. But we should protect whatever we have because our smallness is what has really attracted people. Easton economy continues to be fundamentally strong. We continue to see growth in most sectors of the local economy. Easton's greatest advantage include modest but steady population growth. a real economy that provides positive outcomes for middle and working class people. City Council will be focused later this year on the community's economic future as the city begins work on updating our comprehensive plan. We need to really work with the planning department, Dwayne Tillman and his staff, to make sure that we work on that planning. I mean, we're all fighting the warehouse at Elementus, but it's a use by right. We zoned it for warehouses. We need to be, it's not the staff that makes we make the changes, and we need to look at that. I mean, we need to really, for example, there was a big controversy about the A&R project on 6th Street. Too tall for that. I agree. It was too tall, but guess what? Our zone allowed it. We were allowed to build 7 stories in that neighborhood, a 3-story building. So we need to be very careful about what we put in our comp plan and what we approve. And there's 2 things that I am, as you know, I've already brought it up. Northampton and 3rd Street will continue to be the 2 corridors that you could put a 7-story building on. But all other buildings are 3 stories or less. Like right now, out at North 13th Street interchange where their used car lot is, there's a gentleman who's been buying up all the property around there. And he goes to the planning commission to join them together, and they give him the right to do that. They join him together so that when he comes back, he has this big piece of property, he wants to put 1 5-story building on it. Well, that's not what we want. We have to determine, and I think we're at the point, and I know we're at the point, where we could tell people what we want, not what they want. And I think we have to do that. Because of you, Easton is seeing real progress. As we celebrate the life and legacy of Jimmy Carter, President Jimmy Carter, he said, I have learned that our greatest blessings come when we're able to improve the lives of others. We have a lot of unfortunate or less fortunate people in the city, and we need to be careful. I mean, look at the businesses that are doing for them. Mike Picchetto over at 3rd and Ferry has a dinner. Several councilmen give away food and turkeys and toys at Christmas. Those are very important things. We all need to do that. We got to remember to do that. Because of you, Easton is seeing real progress. This is our work in municipal government, to help others. And it's our first responsibility. Every day is a different challenge. It's every single day of every minute of every day, but it's important work. I'm proud to report not only on our work and our success from the past year, but our path forward as we welcome 2025. 18 years ago, Easton was a place with hundreds of dilapidated buildings and structures. Today, we just approved a $1.5 million facade program, and the improvements are amazing. Amazing what we could do when we pull ourselves together. And when we were given the $2 million ARPA funds, and I fought to get the $24 million that we deserved, we wanted to do all new sidewalks in the city. It wasn't enough money. There wasn't enough money to do all new sidewalks. Because most of the time, the code department is very, very, not lax. They go out, but they don't want to make people spend thousands of dollars to replace. Go up College Hill and try to walk. People walk in the street. You know why? Because it's not safe to walk on the sidewalks. I'm proud to report not only on our work and our success for the past year, but our path forward as we welcome 2025. It was a place downtown that had seen better days 18 years ago. It was a downtown that was old and tired. There were more vacancies than there were stores. It was a city that needed to invest in our waterfront, our parks, our roads, and our recreation. And Dave Hopkins was the first one when we did the Larry Holmes Drive improvements. That was with a $4 million grant from the Delaware River Joint Toll Bridge Commission back in the early part of my career. It was a city that needed to prepare financially for a rainy day. East has never been in such a financially sound position as we are today, and we never thought we'd have a rainy day. And then all of a sudden came COVID, and $11 million budget shortfall. That $11 million was taken care of by ARPA. But if we didn't have ARPA, imagine doubling our property tax when we're trying to keep it level. We upgraded our infrastructure so that we have a safe city. Utility repairs, I'm proud that we've tackled these challenges and more. In 18 years, we've secured more than $100 million in grants. Thank you, Mr. Kingsley and Mr. Hopkins. They're the 2 guys that get all of our grants. Because of our amazing relationship with our U.S. senators, our elected state officials, and because of their deep commitment to ensuring that every city in the Commonwealth thrives. We had Governor Shapiro here a couple weeks ago, and as he toured the downtown, he was very impressed, and he was showcasing Easton as a place that gets it and gets stuff done. And he was very, he visited the sneaker box store, because he has two boys, and they have all these sneakers. He knew more about sneakers than I did. Oak and Casa Nuevo and Casa 401. Just as good and affordable housing is necessary for a community, the space our families also need to play and grow is vital. For many of our families, our parks are the only place for their kids to play. For others, it's the extension of their backyard. We have some places. My grandparents grew on Ferry Street, the 600 block of Ferry Street. Their backyard was half the size of this yard. So parks become very important, and Dave has done a good job of taking care of our parks. We're putting more money into our parks because kids are our future. And no matter what we say or do, we need to build good community centers and parks for our kids. For some, it's a place to listen and learn. I mean, I was involved in the park summer program when I was a kid. I used to walk all the way over to Lackner Heights. Now I live there. But I walked over there every day to play knock hockey and basketball and baseball. It was great. And you got to meet people that I've been friends with all my life. Easton's story is still evolving. Our focus should be on the future. How will our children and grandchildren talk about their city? I hope our grandchildren talk of a place they feel joy, where they have deep connections with friends, and where they found someone or something special, and where they have created a life. I am proud to have been a small part of our progress over these past 18 years, and I'm looking forward to the next 2 years. One of the notable aspects of being mayor is becoming aware of some of the city's hardest moments. I can absolutely assure you that Easton's heart is full of courage and love. From the police officer who saved the victim with a gunshot wound, I saw him, and he knew he was a wanted man. The man went from being taken care of by that cop to being put in the hospital and then to put in jail. To the firefighter who reversed an overdose, it happens more often than you think. To the teacher who intervened in a dangerous situation, from the community organizer who helped the family avoid homelessness, to the business owner who poured everything she had into a new adventure. I see that our hearts are full of courage and love, and I know that our state of our city is ready for a bright future, whatever comes our way. Cities are the economic engine of our nation, but we want to make sure that it is affordable. It's all about affordability, and it comes down to one simple thing: building more housing to drive down the cost of housing. Affordable housing is accessible housing for all income levels. We are building a catalytic future for Easton that not only embraces our growth, but also seizes the opportunity to cement our identity as a city for tourism, dining, entertainment, culture in our region. When I came in 2008, I knew that we would never be a retail center. I knew that we would never be an industrial center. We just didn't have the room. We never expanded our borders. In 1900, we were the biggest city because after the turn of the century, in 1910, 1911, Allentown expanded and merged with 7 other communities, and Bethlehem with 5. Easton 1, South Easton. The borough of South Easton, I think it was 1912. As we grow as a city, we know the number of people we are most vulnerable is also growing. Our population of homeless is growing a lot. It almost doubled in the last 6 months, and it's only going to get worse. So we need to work for that. We need Safe Harbor, and when it was founded by the city in a city building, is more than a shelter. It provides GED classes, it provides job skill training classes, it provides job interview prep, and skills that enable individuals to provide for themselves. In 2025, we will expand Safe Harbor, but we're building a lot: roads, water and sewer lines, gas lines, bridges, canal locks, housing, parks, and more. Updating our infrastructure is inconvenient, and it's inconvenient for everybody, but it must be done to make Easton safe. Easton is on a path that is catalytic, and we're driving excitement and energy into our community about our history, our gold medal future as an entertainment, dining, and cultural powerhouse. Last week, we announced the hologram zoo. I apologize that city council wasn't invited to the press conference because we didn't have the time. I mean, we literally put it together in like a day. And the hologram zoo is going to do two things for the city. One, it's going to fill our vacant space and pay us over $7,000 a month in rent. Two, it's going to provide a second tourism attraction to the Crayola experience. But when we look at our tourism, we have the State Theater still brings in thousands of people a year. The Crayola experience brings in 400,000 a year, and there's more to be talked about that in the future. The hologram zoo, I would say 50 to 60,000, but this year is a busy year. It's been a busy first quarter, and by the time I gave this, I was sure that we would have at least with the new city water authority, with the city water authority. We don't. What I reported to city council in executive session like 4 months ago was that we were really close. It stalled and became stagnant, and it's just not moving forward. I am here to tell you tonight that my first plan is to lease the water facilities of this city. The city of Easton residents worked hard and paid for all of it. It's worth $200 million today or more. And we have private companies lining up, want to meet with me, and I won't meet with them because I don't want to talk. Why talk? Why spend the time? Our first goal is to lease the facilities to our own water authority. The second goal, plan B, would be to sell it. If we sell it, we would get about $10 million a year in interest from the investment. If we lease it for $5 million, we get half. So if I was prudent and financially feasible, we would sell the facility. But when you sell the facility, you give it away. And I would rather do is lease it with a long-term lease to the water authority for the next 30 years, 40 years. That money, as we told you, our recommendation for the administration is that it goes into the capital budget and pays for the improvements to Heil Park, all of our facilities, upgrades our water lines, our sewer lines, our sidewalks, our street trees, and really provides for capital improvements like fire trucks. I mean, we'll order one tonight, I hope, but in reality, we're going to need more. We're going to need more. I mean, we're growing, and we need more facilities. We need, sooner or later, we got to do something with emergency medical services. The EMS on South Side at the Easton Emergency Squad, you remember when they had to close down, and they didn't have anybody to run their department. While there's so much violence and hatred that threatens us to turn against one another, there's so much opportunity that brings us together. We all want the same basic things for ourselves, for our children, for our neighbors. I want to ask the residents of Easton to stand together, to stand up and take collective action that will make our city cleaner, safer, and more compassionate. And when we've done that together, there's no stopping what Easton can become. But 3 months ago, I thought we were settling the Easton Suburban Water Authority lease, and it went nowhere. My patience, very honestly, is wearing thin. Thinner than our consultants and our city administrator. If we don't have a settlement by June, you will see an RFP to sell the facilities. I mean, we need to light a fire under those people. I appoint them, you approve them, and they don't think they work for the city. I mean, it's a strange authority. It's a very strange authority. It's owned by the city of Easton, paid for by the city of Easton, and they get all the expansion in the suburbs where the developers pay for their expansion, and they sell it to the water authority for $1. I know. I was there. I did a lot of those improvements. The suburbs right now and the residents of Easton have a lower than average water bill. Festivals have become a big part of our renaissance, but in today's chaotic environment, we must take into consideration security. Security at the festivals is on our mind, and we've been talking about it and trying to figure out what best way to protect the people that come downtown, not just for outdoor dining, but for our festivals. And we've looked at bollards that come out of the ground like they have at the White House. We looked at all kinds of things. And right now we're going to use, down in New Orleans, they went on a sidewalk. They went around everything, and they just went up on the sidewalks. And with a four-wheel drive vehicle, you can do that. So we need to look at it, and we're going to take that. And also, our festivals need to be more self-supporting. And in ordinance number 285, you have that we added a $50 per vendor fee that comes to the city. And because even though our parking garages are $20, it's not enough to cover the expenses. We're losing money on our festivals, and we shouldn't be. Not when we have people making $75,000, $80,000 a year, a day on those vendors. Now, that's not all the vendors, don't get me wrong. It's Bacon Fest, primarily. In 2024, we're also working on recreational opportunities. I won't be here. I will be going in the end of 27, and I don't think we'll have the community center built by then. But we will have it designed, we'll have the money, and we will pay, and we'll have planned under construction a community center for the West Ward. It's not, I can't even sleep when I think about kids playing in the street. Now, when I was a kid, I played in the street, but you didn't have the speed you have today. I mean, these people are nuts. I mean, when we were clocking people, this was back in the 80s. I shouldn't even mention it's so old. But I had a young lady that I went to school with, high school with, and she was stopped in front of St. Anthony's Youth Center, which is now Easton Area Community Center. I said, well, how fast were you going? 70 miles an hour. I said, if I was the cop, I would have taken your car. I wouldn't have even let you drive home. I mean, and she lived in the West Ward. I mean, it's just, that community center will be built. And it'll be about $6 million, and we expect to raise about $3 million of it. So we will work on that, and we'll try to get everybody to chip in, all the big developers and people who've made money in the city, get them to pay for what and we're partnering with Easton Area Community Center to do their programs. And one of the things that we definitely will have is a senior center. Seniors need a place to go, to socialize, to get a hot lunch, and recreate. So we'll have a senior center. It'll be a true community center. The other thing that we'll do for this year, is the Larry Holmes Hall of Fame. Larry Holmes is the most prominent citizen in Easton. I traveled with him throughout the country, and I'm very proud and privileged to have done that as a friend, and I went to most of his fights, but he was recognized. And today, I was in Washington, D.C. on Sunday, and yesterday, and people said to me, oh, Larry Holmes, home of Larry Holmes, Easton, PA. I said, yeah, they still remember him because he's a good person. And so I would like to, his Heart of a Legend Foundation is looking for a place to put a Larry Holmes Hall of Fame. And we're looking forward to doing that with him. Let me very quickly. Oh, David. This is what it all comes down to finance. And Mark knows that. I'm constantly on him about the finances of the city. Are we in budget? Are we out of budget? What do we do? We took over in 2008 with a $4 million deficit, as reported in the local newspaper. Today, we have over $8 million in reserves. That is amazing. And I thank City Council for supporting all of our financial recommendations. This caused a real fervor in this city. Let me tell you why we bought this. This is the Bearcat. We believe very strongly that safety is a very important thing in our police department and for our residents. We bought this right after we had a sniper shooting at firefighters, police officers, and residents. This they can get behind, and it won't penetrate it. It's bulletproof. And this is what our tiller will look like when we get it. And in 2025, we will finalize our plans to replace and improve or upgrade all of our 3 fire facilities. They haven't been upgraded since the 70s or before, and they need to be updated. But we've been keeping equipment updated because equipment life also affects our residents with their fire insurance. And the fire insurance rates depends on what kind of equipment you have. The firefighters when they spring into action, they don't know what they're going to find. They don't know if there's propane tanks in the house or what. And when that house blew up behind me, those guys, they didn't think about themselves. They thought about if there was anybody in that facility. Economic development is very important, and we get a lot of attitude from some of our people because they think we're building too much. I don't think so. We had 35,000 people in 1950. We have 33,000 by the time I leave office. This is the Commodore. It's not only bringing people downtown, it's bringing businesses. On the rooftop is the Time Restaurant. This is the Watermark right down the street. This is the Marquee right across the street. It's no bigger than the parking garage that was there since the 60s. By the way, you may have found it difficult to park in the parking garage behind City Hall. We're actually maintaining it and caulking and sealing the concrete and doing all the things that we should do. If you're going to own a garage, you better keep it, maintain it. This is the Confluence. If you notice, they're working like crazy down here. It's all underground. They had a hard time getting the soil so that they could put the steel in. And this is the Center Square Hotel, the Great Square Hotel. And if you see, it doesn't show up on TV, I forgot. If you see, this was the 60s. This is what the Redevelopment Authority did in the 60s, John. They don't do that anymore. This was the Drake building that was right where the Marquee is. And that Drake building had a cast iron facade on it. And it was written up in books throughout the country. And this is our assessed value. Why do we do this? Why do we promote and work with developers to build? Because our assessed value was so low that we started to look at it. Right now it's at $368 million. Well, that generates more money without increasing the taxes to the residents in the city. Governor Shapiro was at Oak. He was very impressed with our city, and so am I. Public Works Department, these are all the departments that are makeup. And one of the things they do is all the logistics at our special events. And believe me, it's getting to be a lot. But I also want to make sure that our festivals pay for themselves. I don't look to make money on our festivals, but I look to break even. Now, I wasn't around in 55, Mr. Pinnable, believe it or not. I wasn't around in 55 to see the flood, but the Public Works Department took care of the flood, and they took care of all the snow. Thankfully, we haven't had any in the last 2 years, although the drought is something that's very serious. But they're also in charge of the Recreation Department, and this year with Phillipsburg, we reignited the NFL pass, punt, and kick contest. And the competition, basically, Easton has it, Phillipsburg has it, then the winners compete against each other at Thanksgiving Day. And it was very interesting. But these are the kinds of things that we need to do for our kids. Get them off the street. And I didn't realize it, but Peaburg had practices. So we have to have practices next year. The comp plan is, what do we want Easton to be in 2036? 10 years from now, what do we want Easton to be? You can't zone 13th and Wood Avenue as warehouses and then fight it. It should have never been voted as a use. It should have been residential. But it had a lot of environmental problems. The State Theater still brings in thousands of people every year. They do about 75 to 100 shows a year. The best thing, I think the best show that they do is the Freddy's. And I really like the Freddy's. I was president of the State Theater when we started the Freddy's. And Lafayette College still brings about 100,000 people a year to visit their campus. But this is Lafayette Day, and GEDP did this. GEDP did this, and it brings students off the hill downtown for Lafayette Day, and it's great because then they come back down every day, every Saturday to the farmer's market, and they bring their parents down for dinner. We'll do any kinds of strange things. Imagine bringing snow in from the Poconos, because we didn't have any snow, to do a snowboard event. That was still one of my favorite events. I get out to a lot of schools in the city, although I've been to Forks Township Schools. I get to Forks Elementary School also. They invite me, but I mostly March, Cheston, and Paxenosa. And I don't know if you know who this is. Frank, you probably don't know him, but that's John Lennon.
Let me explain, Mayor.
Thanks, Mr. Brown. But, you know, John Lennon actually visited Easton because the Circle, who we had last year here in the garage, we wanted to have the Circle in the Circle. John Lennon gave them their name, the Circle. They were, I think, the Rondells they were called. And the Circle performed in Easton, and John Lennon came here, and he met with them and his manager, Brian Epstein, and Epstein also was the manager for the Circle, and he gave them their name. He says, you should call yourself the Circle and spell it the way the Brits spell it. And they had Red Rubber Ball and Turn Down Day. And Red Rubber Ball was number 2 on the hit list, only beat out by the Beatles. And if you get beat out by the Beatles, I guess that's good. And then this year we had the Duprees. We try to bring in one main group a year. We brought in Dee Rossioli, related to Karen. And then we brought in the Circle. Now, this year we brought in the Duprees. And 2025, we still haven't booked anybody. But they were very successful. We had them at Cruise Night. This was Winter Market. The Winter Village is really attractive people, but we had a very, very cold year. And the vendors were freezing cold. So we're going to make some changes. I already talked to John Kingsley, and we're going to work on that, and we're going to try to change it up a little bit so that the vendors do better. And this is the Hooper House. In 2025, we very strongly expect to take possession of the Hooper House and start its restoration. It was built in 1761, and Mr. Hooper was a very prominent individual, and we believe that we should restore it like we did the Bachman House Tavern, the Nicholas House, and the George Taylor House. This is the waterfront where some of us are planning a skateboard park and others are planning the waterfront design. And you'll see that probably in the next 60 days. All along Lehigh Drive, Dave is working with KRG? EPD to design a plan for the entire waterfront from there all the way down to the falls. And also this year we opened up Bar Torino and the Seville Apartments. Quickly becoming an Easton favorite is the Criterium. There's no doubt about that. I mean, it is really a great event to come down and see these bicyclists going 35, 45 miles an hour on city streets, making some really hairpin turns. And this is our hologram zoo. Now, somebody says, wow, that's really great. Is it going to be successful? Well, I think the Patels would hope it's going to be successful. They're putting $850,000 of their own money into it. So I would think they're hoping it's going to be successful. I think it's going to be successful because you're going to go through the hologram zoo, but they'll also change it up to do space, to do dinosaurs, to do more than just a zoo. But when you put on those 3D glasses, that giraffe's going to look real. And so we're looking forward to that. That'll have a mid-July opening. Also, at Nurture Nature Center, they're building a planetarium. Inversible dome building. And that planetarium will take the place of all the ones that are in the school. Oh, there she is. How are you, Rachel? I'm doing great. And we're also looking for a place to put, with the Heart of a Legend Foundation, with Larry Holmes and Diane Holmes, we're looking to put a place for our most prominent citizen. When that night, when he beat Ken Norton, that 15th round, is really worth seeing. And people will come and pay to get in just to see that 15th round. And Jerry Cooney, I got to tell you a quick story.
What a knucklehead.
Larry called me up. I was working in our store, and he said, why don't you bring a couple steaks out? We'll put them on a grill. It's okay. This was when he was prepping for the Jerry Cooney fight. And I get out there. He's under his car, under the dashboard, putting in a stereo. I said, what are you doing? You don't have to do that anymore. I have to do that. You don't have to do that. And as he rolled up, as his leg was rolled up, I could see the gun that was wrapped around his ankle. I said, what's that? He said, oh, you weren't supposed to see that. And he was telling me how he was getting death threats when he was fighting the Great White Hope. Yep. And Jerry Cooney and Larry Holmes went through a bitter bitter fight. And I was at that fight. And Jerry Cooney, and I tell Jerry right to his face, I had no right to be there. But Jerry Cooney and Larry Holmes became best friends. Jerry Cooney was at his 75th birthday party. It comes to every event that Larry has every year when he has his golf tournament. Jerry Cooney is there. Jerry Cooney is when they say Gentleman Jerry, they mean it. So this year we will also be planning for our 250th anniversary of the country and the 200th anniversary of Lafayette College. When I say our college, I mean our college because Lafayette was founded by Easton residents who decided that they needed an institution of higher learning in their city. And we're glad they did because they bring about 100,000 people per year. This is my favorite slide. I use it on the last slide of every show that I give. I go out all over the city and all over the suburbs to give a history of Easton slideshow. And I use this show because 20 years ago, you would have never seen the Easton High School Red Rover football team coming out of the field house with the Easton flag. And today they do. And I'm really proud of that high school and the kids who come out and carry that flag every football game. So the state of the city is good. It's strong. There's a bright future ahead of us. For the first time in probably 100 years, the city has money. Now, that doesn't mean we have money to just throw around. We don't. Every day is a challenge. But it's a challenge because we have not met the thresholds that City Council set for each of our fund balances. And we're getting close with the general fund balance, but we're not there yet. I think we had $11 million for the general fund. So we have a way to go. We have a little over $8 million. So thank you very much to the state of the city. Appreciate it.
While the mayor is sitting down, if there are open seats, please raise your hand. We have 4 people standing at open seat. They are brave souls. All right, Mayor, we are at public comment. I believe.
Actually, on the minutes we did, public comment.
Yeah.
Public comment on agenda items. Name and address, please.
Joe Welsh, West Ward resident, 138 South 10th, and Executive Director of the Lehigh Valley Justice Institute. I'm here to speak about the marijuana ordinance. As you know, Lehigh Valley Justice Institute in 2022 released the data-intensive study on marijuana prosecutions in the Lehigh Valley, and I've sent that all to you. It's entitled Clogging the Courts. Our 2 recommendations were, 1, decriminalization ordinances such as the ones that you are considering tonight, and 2, that any abuse issues with regard to marijuana be handled in a medical setting, just like alcohol abuse is. Some of our findings from that study were that 1 in 6 cases in our local courts involve marijuana charges. That's clogging our courts and it's clogging the criminal justice system generally, diverting resources from real crimes. More troubling, we found that you are 6.4 times more likely to be charged with a marijuana offense if you are African American. And actually, that's not surprising because the history, and this is something we really have to understand, the history of marijuana prohibition in the United States is rooted in corporate greed and racism. How did we get here? Hemp is a naturally growing crop native to North America. Well, here's how we got here. Alcohol prohibition began with the 18th Amendment in 1918. It was ratified, like all except one amendment, by state legislatures. At the time, they were heavily dominated by rural conservative interests because states were not required to redistrict and have equal member districts as so many moved into the cities. That great experiment gave rise to organized crime, bootlegging, and the collateral destruction of lives. The liquor lobby ultimately pushed for repeal, and the 21st Amendment was ratified by conventions in the states, not by state legislatures. So those people came from equal member districts, and the conservative influence was no longer outsized. After alcohol prohibition was lifted, the corporate liquor industry realized that that many of their consumers had turned to a healthier and cheaper intoxicant, marijuana. And this most prominently occurred in communities of color, which is very simple to understand because a lot of the speakeasies of the alcohol prohibition era would have barred blacks from entering. Rather than learn the lessons of alcohol prohibition, the corporate liquor lobby flexed its newfound political muscle and rammed the Marijuana Tax Act through Congress in 1937, imposing the equivalent of $637 an ounce excise tax in today's dollars. In response to that, Mayor Fiora LaGuardia of New York impaneled a blue ribbon commission which undertook a 5-year definitive scientific study which found, one, marijuana use was mostly in communities of color in the city of New York. Marijuana was not a gateway drug, and marijuana was not a factor in serious crime. In the 1970s, Nixon's war on drugs laid bare the racist history of marijuana enforcement by making it a Schedule I drug, putting it right up there with heroin. In the 1990s, after he had a religious conversion, John Ehrlichman's who was Nixon's chief domestic policy advisor, confessed that the war on drugs was targeted to attack black Americans as they overwhelmingly voted against Nixon. So that's how we got here tonight. I just want to address one other issue that seems to be generating some confusion. Federal law is not an issue here tonight. When my good friend Chief Scalzo and his officers go out and arrest people for marijuana possession, they charge under state law, not federal law. They do not enforce federal law. Federal agencies, most notably the Department of Justice and the local U.S. Attorney's Office, enforce federal law. All that this legislation does is codify discretionary procedures which many other municipalities in Pennsylvania have enacted, including our sister cities right here in the Lehigh Valley. So we ask tonight for council to step up to the plate, end this legacy of corporate greed which got us here, end this legacy of racism which got us here. This is in your hands, and I thank you very much for listening and for considering the report that we sent to you. I also have some information about a symposium that we are holding on the intersection of mental health and criminal justice, a day-long symposium, next Thursday, March 20th at Northampton Community College. But since my time's running out on the shot clock, I'll give more details on that later in the meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else like to address City Council on agenda items? There will be a time at the end of the meeting to address City Council on any item concerning the City of Easton.
Hello, everyone. My name is Susan Hartraff Bittinger, and I reside in Southside Easton. And I just wanted to say that I was happy to see us moving forward in the city regarding the marijuana ordinance, but I'm even happier for the fact that you've gone to raise the penalties for smoking in public. I truly worry about that. So I'm happy to see that you are offering that. And how much was that again? That is it 150 first?
50 for the first time of public smoking.
Okay. All right. Well, I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Jill DeSando Dennis from the West Ward. I don't really have any prepared remarks, but I would like to thank the gentleman who spoke about the facts and history of the war on drugs, especially against African Americans in this country. I support the ordinance. I think it's terrible that young people will have the burden of a record when they go forward in life. I do think that that's, in particular, something that's going to be a negative, have extremely negative impact on people in the West Ward and other neighborhoods. And I'll just simply say this as a personal anecdote. My nephew was arrested in New Jersey. He was smoking along the beach, and he was slapped with a fine, and he had to do some community service. He's now a college graduate, an engineer, working in a job, and thank goodness he doesn't have to deal with the oppressive consequences of having a record. So, thank you.
Thank you, Julie.
Hi there. My name is Nicholas Martens, formerly a resident of Palmer Township and now live in Bethlehem, but I am a local downtown business owner, and I wanted to speak on the marijuana ordinance as well. And thank you guys once again for taking this seriously. It seems like there's a lot of support here today in favor of decriminalization. So something I didn't get to talk about the last time, but I'm glad this gentleman here spoke about the history as well. Rooted in racism, actually, in terms of the criminalization of the plant. Even the name marijuana itself, you guys may or may not know that that's actually a term that was rooted to be derogatory in reference towards Mexicans who were at the time looked at as less than Americans were. So the name itself is cannabis, and that is the scientific name of the plant. So when we even look at it, the name itself has been written as marijuana just so that there is this negative connotation towards it. But at the end of the day, the plant is cannabis and it hasn't actually truly hurt someone. In terms of the actual war on drugs through Nixon, there's been the newly released Nixon tapes, which most of you probably are not familiar with, but Nixon was even quoted when it came to the subject of marijuana that he knows, and I quote, "Marijuana I know not to be particularly dangerous." So this is coming from the man himself who, steadfast this war on drugs and decided to put marijuana at the forefront. So I think that's also important to note. And as times are changing, with over 39 states in the country who have legalized medical marijuana, including Pennsylvania since 2016, we know it for a fact to not be anywhere particularly dangerous unless you're looking at a bag of chips in your cabinet. So something like that, I think, is to take in consideration. And not only are 39 states legal for medical, but 25 states in the country are actually legal for adult use recreational choices if people want to use it just the same way anyone would go down to the bar and have a drink, which has been legal and shown to cause far more damage than cannabis ever has. And I think something else that I wanted to touch base on too, with I think common sense passing of this decriminalization, is not only does it protect maybe younger people who might be getting caught with simple, small possession of marijuana that could ruin a lot for their future, but it also protects the over 500,000 patients in Pennsylvania, but the ones that might be here in Easton. A lot of people are not aware that Pennsylvania law for medical marijuana permits for it to be vaporized, but once someone smokes it, as ridiculous as it might sound, it actually becomes illegal and becomes a charge once again, and they're not protected by being a patient. So by decriminalizing, you're actually protecting patients who might not even be aware that they're breaking the law and think they're doing everything by the books. So I think it's common sense practice, and I thank you guys for looking at that. And lastly, as I was here during the last meeting, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the choice was if somebody did get caught over 3 times, with possession, that it would be up to the judge to decide what happens next. I think it should be looked at maybe to put into there that maybe ARD should be the option if there's a 4th offense, because I still think even if someone's caught 3-4 times, they're using it medically, maybe they're using it recreationally, they should have a chance to still not have that on their record, because at the end of the day, it is a plant. It's not particularly dangerous, and it helps a lot of people. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just as an FYI, the RDA, I'm thinking about John, ARD, would be at the discretion of the judge. So the judge could do that, but we don't have that authority. So.
Anyone else? Okay, we'll move on. Consent agenda, Madam Clerk, there's no consent agenda. There's no reports received by council, we go to reports for committees. Finance Committee, Vice Mayor Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. I have one thing coming to fruition this evening, and that's with a change on the resolution for the authorizing equipment leasing for the credit acquisition. So that'll be coming up this evening, and we have the changes, and I believe our clerk has the changes also. So as we go through that, we will pause for a second and amend and put the change in.
Economic Development Committee, Mr. Pinnabone, Councilman Pinnabone.
Thank you, Mayor. A few items. This past week, we held the initial 2025 CDBG application workshop for third-party subrecipients. Submitted 2 grants totaling $186,000 for the comprehensive plan funding and the Hooper House renovations. Staff met with Northampton County Parks and Recreation to discuss funding for the Highline project and began implementing improvements to business onboarding and orientation processes in the city. Met with the Easton Main Street to revise business guide checklist, and met with Kraft and Company to discuss recommended changes to city protocol in management services. Additionally, Mayor, as a lot of you may notice, my landlord-tenant training I pulled from the agenda. Last week or 2 weeks ago, we were asked by the Lehigh Valley Association of Realtors to exempt their members from having to take a 10-minute test to help better serve Easton, and we didn't exempt anybody. So then we heard from their attorneys. So we are going to pull it back for a little bit and work on it, but it's not over. It's a good thing for the community, and we will be bringing that back shortly. Secondly, many have heard some of the commotion at Pioneer Park over the last 2 days in Southside. Last summer, we had some rough time. Monday, we had about 50 young people there. You know, they're all wearing these masks now that cover them, you know, just the eyes out. And our police were involved, and we had to bring an ambulance in. There were some fights, and it happened again last night. And as I sat there at the park with the police, and our police did an excellent job getting control and dispersing the situation. From the scene, I called the mayor, and he already knew what I was calling about when he answered the phone, and we discussed it. And we're going to have a community meeting at Pioneer, 12 o'clock on Saturday. Our police officers will be there, our EMTs, fire department, superintendent of schools, Cheston principal, Shiloh Church, Boys and Girls Club, Neighborhood Center, business owners, and most importantly, residents. And we're going to get together and solve this problem before the weather gets too nice and it blows up to something bigger. So we're going to have that discussion. Mayor, that's all I have. Thank you.
Planning and Code Committee, Councilman Rose.
Thank you, Mayor Panto. The zoning update proposal was presented and discussed at the Planning Commission meeting last week, and I did receive a high volume of calls from residents, both inquiring about it, the proposal, as well as sharing opinions. And I was just hoping that Mayor, you or Administrator Campos could advise what are the next steps, and where will we see that going to zoning next, or will that be coming to council at a point for presentation?
It'll come to council, and we'll have a presentation on the changes.
Okay. What at the next meeting, or when do we expect that?
I think it's the second meeting in, yeah, that'll be the next meeting, second meeting in March.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, the only thing I'm not sure of, because I know at the Planning Commission it was announced that at the April meeting it was going to come before the Planning Commission for its recommendations. So typically they would complete their role first, and then it would go
That
in
makes
front of
sense.
City Council. But that would only be a one. That means the first City Council meeting in April would be ready for public hearing. That would be generally your next step.
Thanks for that information. The next zoning meeting will be on Monday, March 17th, this coming Monday at 6 p.m. The agenda's out on the website, and I just wanted to mention, on Friday, I attended the Lady Boss Women's Summit. I was one small part of bringing that to Easton this year at the Nurture Nature Center. Thank you so much for hosting. Kim Kometz was honored with the Marish Commissioner Award. Such a well-deserved recipient of the award. I just wanted to congratulate Kim. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Public Safety Committee, Councilman Ruggles?
Thank you. Just wanted to, again, update council. We're still pursuing the LiDAR. The federal government has a lot of very strange rules, so we're trying to negotiate through those rules. But I do believe that relatively soon we will be having our on-site training course for the drone and the LiDAR that's attached to that, and I think that's coming up fairly soon. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ruggles. Public Works Committee, Councilmember Ettinger?
Thank you, Mayor. Tonight under new business, I'm going to be moving two resolutions, one involving the relining of storm sewer pipes in the 800 and 900 blocks of Lehigh Street, and the other to reserve spaces in the parking lot at the old Larry Holmes building for the the drilling under the Lehigh for the new sewer main.
Thank you, Mr. Ettinger. Administration Committee, Councilmember Sultana?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm gonna pass those packets. Mayor, so a couple of months ago, the council was presented with a presentation from the Intrepid Fiber Network Company, an open access network that aligns incentives for all parties to bridge the digital divide. So in order to consider their services, the council wanted to have more information about them, working with other municipalities in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania or New Jersey. They were also asked to provide a list and status for each. So last week we received a response from them, and they mentioned that Intrepid is currently working with municipalities across New Jersey and Pennsylvania and in Easton's immediate vicinity. The areas such as Palmer Heights and Wilsonboro, which are contiguous to Easton, would be a part of the same construction effort and network as Easton's. They have made contact with almost all the municipalities surrounding the city and have entered into conversation with others across the state. In the immediate area, they are at various stages of interactions, but have had productive conversation with the majority. We asked them to provide us with references from other cities which are Intrepid deployed fiber are currently operational, so they provided us a list. They've been working with city of North Glen, Colorado. They've been working with the city administrator, city of Westminster, Colorado, city of Lafayette, Colorado, city of Eden, Minnesota, city of St. Cloud, Minnesota. They were also asked to provide the time frame to final ISP once fiber is built, or do they have an ISP lined up to sell in Easton? Intrepid will have an ISP lined up and contracted before construction begins in Easton. So furthermore, to clarify details about Intrepid construction process and serviceability rollout, Intrepid does not need to complete the entire network in order for its signed ISP partners to begin selling services to residents. The rollout of service will be phased alongside construction. This means that as much distribution area, usually around the size of a neighborhood or rather areas of homes one permit allows us to construct, is completed and connected to the network backbone. Service is available from the Encore ISP. A copy of presentation and some of the feedbacks from the other cities that are working with Intrepid is attached to the packet for the council to review. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you. Report of City Solicitor, Mr. Shear.
Thank you. Still not on. Oh, it is on. Okay. I just want to report to City Council what I reported to the Planning Commission last week. If you recall, at least in reading in the newspaper, There had been a project proposed off of Morrison Avenue where the old Cigna was, and the Planning Commission had voted against, or recommended against the special exception. It went before the zoning hearing board. The zoning hearing board denied the request. The developer appealed it. There were a number of neighbors. They intervened on the appeal. I intervened on behalf of the city of Easton to support the rejection of the special exception consistent with the Planning Commission. And I just want to report the court did uphold the decision of the zoning hearing board denying the special exception. And it's a good read, actually. I shared it with Councilperson Rose as a member of the Planning Commission. But it's a good read because it gives you an idea of what are the factors you look at, because special exceptions means the developer has the right to do it. The presumption is in favor of the developer. But if you could flip it over, and here the flip over was really the concern on the traffic and the intersection, which is very unique there. So I have no other report.
Thank you, Mr. Shear. They have 30 days to appeal it?
Yes, they have 30 days to file an appeal. It would have to go to Commonwealth Court.
No, Commonwealth.
Wow.
Commonwealth has to accept it.
You can appeal as of right to civil matters, Superior Court, municipal type to Commonwealth Court. Supreme Court is the one who decides, well, maybe we'll listen to you, maybe we won't.
Okay, thank you for that legal lesson. My report is very brief because I gave the state of the city. I'm happy to say that I was in Washington on Sunday, and I was elected to the vice chairmanship of the National League of Cities Advisory Board of Directors. I was served 2 terms on the board of directors, and now I'm on the advisory board. And I just want to say that I hope City Council finds a hologram zoo lease into their liking. It is market rate rent. We didn't give them any incentive to come to Easton. They came to Easton on their own decision, and the Patels are going to do a nice job of building out the space themselves, and they're getting no benefit from the city of Easton. They're paying the market value rate, and they're doing all the work themselves. That's the report. Mr. Campos, City's Administrator.
Hey, Mr. Campos, I have video of the mayor riding around a scooter in Washington on Sunday.
No, you don't have a video of me on a scooter because you see scooters everywhere in Washington. I wish if we ever brought them to Easton, which I've tried to do, and so has Dave, we tried to bring bicycles to Easton. We think people should be in shape, but electric bikes, electric scooters that you can leave anywhere in the city, no. It looked like a mess down there.
I enjoyed it.
You enjoyed your scooter ride,
I enjoyed it.
Mayor, a couple of things. First of all, last week, myself, members of the police department and HR attended the PELRAS conference. That's the Public Employee Labor Conference. What I'll do is I'm going to submit my report and then to the clerk, and I will include the classes that I attended. I also requested we get both an electronic format and a binder, so you're welcome to sit down with me and I can review some of the topics that we discussed that I think are pertinent. It's all labor law related, and I think it would be helpful maybe if you took half hour and sat down with me. I can give you a really high level just overview of some of the coursework. And then in the future, I think would be a good idea. Council members don't typically attend, but depending on the agenda, it may not be a bad idea for a council member, and we can rotate them to attend. And at least you come maybe one day. It's a really good conference for understanding labor law. Secondly, on the agenda is as the mayor had mentioned, an invoice to approve to order a pumper for the fire truck. I think what's really important here is that there is about a 4-year turnaround time. So we locked into that price, thankfully, before potentially steel goes up, down, then up again. I don't know where it's going, but it's prudent to say that the staff feels that, and myself, that we should you should approve this.
History has shown the price is always going up.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. The prices have been going up. It is ridiculous.
There are no eggs in it. We didn't order any eggs with it, did we?
No, no. But I do want to. What I'll do is I'm going to send out more of a detailed list of our fleet. We have about 12 vehicles in the fleet. The oldest ranging 28 years old. So anyone who says that we're just shopping and buying, it's not the case. We maintain and keep some of our vehicles. We have one of our pumpers that was manufactured in 1996. Another one that was manufactured in 1998. But these are not on the first. They're not on the first two. They're usually second or third.
They're rotating
They're
out.
reserve. They're in reserve. In other words, yeah. So I'll provide that in an email to council. And then the last thing that I have, there's some announcements that are going on social media regarding work that's going on in the city. Please pay attention to that. This is even though the marquee, the work that's done, the sidewalk that's done on 3rd Street, that's being done on 3rd Street as part of the project is going to be completed this week, and the barriers are going to come down. Unfortunately, that's all the work in the marquee, and there, as the mayor had mentioned, there's going to be a lot of underground work that now needs to get done for the next 4 to 5 weeks. So you're going to see some road closures. Please keep an eye out for that. Share it with your constituents. It is going to be advertised and communicated to the public on our social media sites. And then the other thing is, as the mayor had mentioned, there is repair work going on right now. We have about, in the garage, in the 3rd Street garage here, so we have about a third of the spaces that are they cannot be occupied due to several different factors. So we're operating at 2/3 capacity. And right now with a show going on at the State Theater, we're a little bit higher than normal. We have been, just in terms of vacancy, we've had opened up, we had about maybe 15 to 20, maybe to 25 open spaces at any given time during the day. So we never quite hit the 100% mark, but we were full. I've requested and made some accommodations to move our city vehicles. So that's about maybe 15 spots or so that we're going to open up. And also staff is parking at the 4th Street garage, and that's about 40 or so cars that will assist us. Anyway, that construction is going to last probably until the end of April, conservatively. So hopefully it's done before then. That's all I have, Mayor.
Mr. Hopkins, the repairs are being done to this garage are the caulking at the joints and the sealing of the deck, which I think is really important. What else?
Yeah, so there's a lot of partial depth concrete repairs, so they're cutting out a lot of cracking, and some of the small spalls that you'll get early on in the lifespan of the structure. They're going to replace the joints between the double T's so that you don't have leaking from floor to floor, which is, become an issue, and it's slippery in the wintertime. And then the last thing they'll do is they'll apply a traffic deck coating, which is an epoxy sand mix. It'll protect, from salt intrusion, and it'll also make the floors a little less slippery when you're walking.
Thank you. There's no correspondence, so we'll go right into unfinished business, Madam Clerk.
Bill number 45, an ordinance granting permanent easement to the Easton Area Joint Sewer Authority for installation of new sewage pumping main.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Mrs. Rose?
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
Ms. Sultana?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Ettinger?
Aye.
Mayor Panto?
Aye.
Mr. Pinnabone?
Aye.
For the next resolution, I want to say something.
You gotta wait till discussion.
Oh, okay.
Bill number 46, an ordinance adding chapter 581 relating to the use and possession of marijuana.
So moved.
Second.
Moved in seconds or discussion.
I have to say this with a heavy heart that I call a motion to table the ordinance. Because in light of the aforementioned allegations against one of the officials that were brought to my attention recently regarding the possession of marijuana, I respectfully make a motion to table the ordinance to decriminalize the marijuana until the concern brought to my attention is addressed. So it's
What's
just,
the concern? I don't understand.
so there's a concern that brought to my attention regarding the possession of marijuana against one of the official. I just respectfully make a motion to table the ordinance to decriminalize the marijuana until the concern brought to my attention is addressed. It's just a request, if anybody.
I will second that motion, but I would like to preface that with some remarks. I am very in full support of the intent of this ordinance, but I have to be consistent. And I've taken on Councilmember Sultana with her ceasefire resolution and ordinance, and because that's the federal government. We're going to enact a law in the city of Easton that is counter to a law in the state of Pennsylvania. And I agree that what we should be doing is passing a resolution urging the state legislators to decriminalize marijuana in the state of Pennsylvania. Now, I realize, Mr. Pinnabone, that there are 17 municipalities that have done so. And I would like to be one of those people, because I agree with everything that everybody said, that, and Mr. Welsh said it very eloquently. I agree. I don't think that a person should be 40 years after they have a drug possession on their record should be denied a job or a scholarship or admission to a college. I agree with it, and I've done it in the past. I've voted for decriminalization of marijuana in the past. I wish the intent is not what I'm against. I need to be consistent. During the debate about the ceasefire agreement with Gaza, the Palestine, and the Israelis, I said we had no business talking about it, and we don't. But I'd have to agree that the place where this should be addressed is with our state legislators. I agree with the intent, but the state legislators should take some action.
Thank you, Mayor. I would ask council to reject the table position tonight. Mayor, I think there's a big difference between this ordinance and ceasefire in another country. The ceasefire ordinance was us getting involved in a country issue.
We're just talking on the tabling.
We're still in a discussion, which is what I'm doing.
For
On the tabling.
For tabling.
But I'm telling you why I'm asking not to table.
Not to table, okay.
The ceasefire was to involve ourselves in something that was happening in another country. The ordinance we're bringing tonight is something that is negatively impacting people of this city. I have a resident who was pulled over by Easton Police at 22 years old for not coming to a complete stop. When he pulled out his driver's license, 1.8 grams of marijuana fell out. He was charged, he paid a fine. He's 46 now. He has never been able to coach his kids' Little League. He's never been in trouble since. He lost out on jobs, licenses, and other things for 20-some years because of 1.8 grams of marijuana. I'm not asking to make it legal. We're asking to increase one punishment and decrease another to a summary offense. Considering we have a president who holds the highest job in the land with 36 felony convictions, I don't believe that I'm asking anything too far-fetched. I think it's time for the city of Easton to think progressively and to think forward. We've done a lot of that with development and other things, and I would encourage us to do the same thing here. The ceasefire in this legislation it's not even apples and oranges. It's apples and car batteries. So I would ask that we do not table this and we move forward with a vote.
I don't see any reason why we should table this. But again, as I said during the committee, I will be voting no for it because my concern is that although we raised the public smoking, I still have a real concern that someone is going to push that envelope, and then we're going to get the public smoking with it and children out and about. And as we have our community affairs, this will be affected by it. So my concern is from experience. And so therefore I will be voting no on that.
My concern is what the individual police officer will charge. You have two laws, a city law and a state law. They take an oath to swear to enforce the laws of the ordinances of the city, the state of Pennsylvania, the laws of the state of Pennsylvania, the laws of the federal government. So if I get arrested, not me personally, but if they make an arrest and it's a black person and they decide that they're going to make it a felony, but the white guy he gets a misdemeanor. There we go.
Well, Mayor, with all due respect, if our police are doing that, wouldn't you want to know?
Well, no. The point is, there's two laws that they have to enforce. One's a city law, one's a federal state law.
Yeah, if I may, the motion to table should be a focused motion on whether to table the entire.
I still don't even understand the reason to table.
The entire discussion on the merits. So the only thing to discuss now is whether there's a good reason to put it off to another meeting, and that's also important. If you're going to table, it's important to indicate when you're tabling it to. Is it indefinitely till someone makes a motion to put it back on the table, in which case we'd have to give the 2 weeks notice, or is it to a specific meeting date so that it's announced now and we don't have to advertise again?
Just a question. This is for the council. The asking for it to be tabled is based on a person that is affected by it, then they want to bring that off the table, stop it on the table, right?
Generally, the reason you table something is because you want more time to find out more information about the issue. That's the general concept there.
Therefore,
and I do want to clarify that I do
Thank you.
support the ordinance, and as I ever had shown my support before. I just need more time to make my concern addressed. So I just want to table it. I support the ordinance. I
So
know
are you
people of
saying-
color have been hurt. Our community has been harmed because of this law. But at this moment, I just want council to table it.
Councilwoman,
That's-
just for clarity for myself, please, are you saying someone in the community that is affecting this decision of yours, or is someone on council that is affecting that decision? I'm not quite understanding.
So this decision will not affect anyone, but I need time to make decisions. I have shown my support for this ordinance already, but the recent concerns brought to my attention actually makes me think more about this legislation, and that's why I'm requesting the council to table it.
Okay. Will you?
It's passed or not, I will leave it on the council, but I will make motion to, but I won't be able to vote on it tonight.
Okay.
I personally would like to see the vote go forward, and I would request, that everyone consider voting in support of this ordinance, because I think it's the right thing to do. I would hate to see some young person or old person or someone who's medically challenged, who has a small amount of cannabis possession, to see this go on their record. I think we're in the wrong if we vote against this personally. It's my perspective.
There should be a discussion. If it's not tabled, if the vote is against tabling it, then
Bring it back up
then
with
it's on the table and everyone discusses on the merits.
So then there's a
I'm
motion
just trying
to
keep the
table in a second,
procedure.
so we got to vote on
Vote
that
on that.
first.
And if you're finished discussing the motion on tabling, and Mrs. Sultana would have under Robert's rule, it's very desperate when I have to actually look up Robert's Rules of Orders. But you would have the last right to speak on it, and then just call the question on whether or not to table it.
Just to ask one more question regarding the table, Councilwoman, can you tell us what your issues are or your questions?
That's what I'm trying to get to.
I mentioned the issue already, but I cannot speak more than that.
Take a vote on the motion, I guess.
Call the question.
I'll call the question.
Call the question.
Motion is on the second, tabling it.
So we need a vote, right?
You vote.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
Ms. Sultana?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
I to vote for it or to table it?
Vote to
Aye is
table.
the table.
No, I don't want to table.
Mr. Eddinger,
No.
Mayor Panto,
Aye.
Mr. Pinnabone,
No.
Mrs. Rose,
No.
4-3, the motion is denied. We vote on the ordinance as positioned. Dr. Ruggles.
Let me just first say that I am very supportive of the intent of this motion, of this ordinance. I agree with the mayor that this is something that belongs to state legislatures level, and I would be enormously supportive of a resolution from this council to the state legislature to move their laws to this level. Okay. I'm going to vote no on this ordinance tonight, and the reason I'm going to vote no is because I honestly believe that there are many things in this ordinance that are not well thought out. First of all, everybody up here took an oath to uphold the laws of this Commonwealth. And it's my opinion that by doing this, we are not upholding that specific law of the Commonwealth that says that this is a misdemeanor. Marijuana possession is a misdemeanor. That's a law of the Commonwealth. It's not something that we created up here. It's a law of the Commonwealth. Secondly, my second point is the police officers took that same oath. The mayor said they have an oath to support the laws of the Commonwealth and also support the laws of the city. Now, we have two laws that are not the same. The one says you'll give them a misdemeanor. The other one says a summary judgment. So the big key factor here is this. What's the police officer going to do? I believe that there is an enormously high probability that the police officers of this city will go with the state law. If that is the case, then everybody that came up here, what you were saying is moot, because they're going to enforce, if they enforce the state law, doesn't matter what we as a council pass. This ordinance means nothing, because they're enforcing the state law to where it's going to be a misdemeanor. This ordinance basically just reduces it down to a summary offense.
Right.
So depending on how it gets enforced is really the issue, okay? So I honestly believe that there's an enormously high probability that this will be enforced by the police as a misdemeanor.
Councilman Ruggles, I'm sorry, go ahead. I apologize, I thought you were done. I thought you were done.
Fourth, this ordinance is dramatically like ordinances that were passed prior to all of the riots out in Ferguson, Missouri. What it is the city passes an ordinance, and that's what they did out in Ferguson. They passed an ordinance to gain more revenue for the city. So this ordinance basically is, in this summary judgment, it takes and assesses fines, and those fines come to the city, right? That's what they did out in Ferguson. We have been told up here on council that this currently is prejudicial, if you will, the enforcement of this is prejudicial towards people of low income, because we were told that people that have a higher income can easily get a medical marijuana card. They get a medical marijuana card, they're good. People who can't afford that, lower income people, okay, then all of a sudden they are the ones that get this fine placed on them. So very, very similar to what happened in Ferguson. My fifth point here is that I believe that anybody that votes for this is my personal opinion, but I believe anyone that votes for this is basically breaking our code of ethics. We're breaking the code of ethics because you, everybody up here, said that they would enforce the laws of the Commonwealth. And this is not enforcing the laws of the Commonwealth. A path to do this is by passing a resolution that says this and send it to the state and say, state, this is what you have to do because it's your law. We can't trump your law. So those are the 5 different areas that I have concerns with this particular ordinance.
Councilman, I have a few questions. I heard a lot of you gave your opinion, and I value your opinion. You're the chairman of the Public Safety Committee overseeing police and fire, correct?
Correct.
How many police officers have you discussed this ordinance with, if you don't mind me asking?
I don't know, maybe 5 or 6.
Okay, I've done 13, who all agree with this ordinance and said it would save them a hell of a lot more time on paperwork and to get back to normal business, including ones who said sometimes they overlook it because the process is too hard. Number 2, if we're committing such an atrocity and breaking the law of the state, how come no lawsuits or any other infractions have been brought to 17 municipalities in the state of Pennsylvania who have adopted this as far as 11 years ago? None, not any. Number 2, as we heard from the mayor and yourself, and the chief mentioned that he would recommend to his officers, if this passed, how to charge it. So if we have an officer who's charging black or brown people differently than charging white people, that should be the concern we're discussing. That should be a concern that should be brought forward, I would think. I would think that picking and choosing how you treat people based on their skin color should be more alarming to you than a small amount of marijuana. I also believe, per Mr. Welsh, who's also an attorney, who spoke earlier, that the law from federal is that it's illegal. We're not changing that. We're saying we're changing the punishment. We're increasing one, making another. The fee is the fine has been typically $25. We're raising that to $150. We're changing something, but you don't have an issue with that. So we're lowering something else. It's still going to be a punishment, but why ruin somebody's life, which shows that it disproportionately affects the most vulnerable people in our community? Because you say we're breaking a state law, but that has never been brought forward in 17 municipalities from the state. Bethlehem, Allentown. I've spoken with their police, their chief, their mayors, district attorneys in Northampton County, judges at Northampton County, people who have legal degrees in the audience sitting that represent us. No one has an issue or believes that we are doing anything to threaten the relationship or the laws of the state. The state has allowed this for 17 municipalities. As far as the federal government, there's almost 30 states that have legalized it completely, and no lawsuits or fighting from the federal government has come down. So I think what we're doing is we're fear-mongering. We're not, a lot of people that are objective to this are not doing their research. No municipalities have had any issues. Why would we? I would hope you would.
I am not pointing to the municipalities. You're bringing something else that I didn't even comment on. What I commented on is we took an oath up here. We took an oath to support the laws of the state of Pennsylvania. And in doing this, we are bypassing that law that is in the books, that's on the books. I'm not talking about other municipalities or whatever. I'm talking about the oath that we took to support the laws of the state of Pennsylvania. And this is not supporting that law. This is bypassing that law.
But if we broke a law, don't you think?
I'm not
the
saying
state
we
would-
broke the
No,
law.
no, no, I'm
I'm
asking you
saying
if we did.
are ethically bound.
But if we broke the law, wouldn't the state come down on us? I'm asking. That's what happens when you break the law, I'm asking.
No, the state legislature doesn't have the guts.
No, not the state legislature.
The
but
state legislature, well, that's where it has to start. And they won't pass a law. They don't pass anything for cities. We talk
just-
about speed on the streets. They don't even give us radar.
Yeah, I mean, just as a matter of reality, and I'm not. I enjoy the debate here, but you do have to. I think you have to recognize when the law is in the books, because I've said this 5 years ago when the issue came up. The state should be changing the law.
Right.
The sense is, though, what you're saying is, but I believe as a legislator, this is the right thing for our community, and no one's going to enforce the law against us. That's what you're saying.
I'm saying it hasn't been done.
But that I just want you
So
to
how
know.
much longer-
I want you to know that doesn't mean the law isn't there.
Agreed. But
doesn't
how much longer
disappear.
do we continue
You can do.
to screw over our residents
Well, that's why this.
when nobody else is being bothered by it?
That is why you made the motion. I mean, that's why you've already had a
I know why I
ruling.
made it. I'm
No,
aware.
but that's why you already had a ruling that you could go that didn't say you can't do it. I'm just saying the positions that Dr. Ruggles is espousing is a very fair comment, and you can't say the law doesn't exist because the law isn't being enforced.
No, I agree it exists. But what I'm saying is we can't use breaking the law as the reason when 17 other municipalities in Pennsylvania have done it, and the state has said, okay, fine.
I don't think if the state said, okay, it's fine, then they should then ask Congress, ask your representative to introduce a resolution that says we don't want to change the law. We just want the legislature, the Senate and the House, to make a resolution that it's fine to ignore this particular law.
So then,
It's
what
better
I would
they
say to
repeal
that
it.
is we approve the ordinance, make it number 18, and send a resolution.
Well, you could do it.
I know.
I know.
I know.
I'm
No, I'm
not.
just saying.
I am not saying you can't proceed with
I
this.
know you're not.
I just want to defend Dr. Ruggles' comment because I think technically it is correct statement.
I would like to suggest that we word a resolution that this council can pass to decriminalize marijuana, and we authorize Mr. Pinnabone, who's a member of the Legislative Action Committee of the Pennsylvania Municipal League, to go out and walk the halls of the Capitol and get this passed.
Well, but for now, you have a motion on the table to not on the table. Yeah, you have the motion in front of you to vote on. It's been moved for adoption, and I believe it's been seconded. It's been seconded. So it's in front of you to vote on, to discuss and vote on. That resolution would have to come up in another meeting on the agenda because it's not on the agenda. You have something right now, and I'm not saying I'm not
I know,
saying
Joe.
you
I
can't-
know.
I'm saying that when you frame the issue, there are two clear sides that I can appreciate.
And I just go backwards. I said this before and I'll say it again. I can get behind this if our state legislators get behind it.
Yep.
That's my thing. It's always been my thing.
And we are a commonwealth, we're not a state. So we are products of the state, and we are sworn to do what they say to do.
Right.
Okay,
And that's the difference
let's
between a
vote.
commonwealth and a state.
Let's vote. Roger, I'm glad you're big on rules, Councilman Ruggles. I'm glad you're big on rules, and I'm going to explain that to you off the record after this.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, roll call on the vote.
Dr. Ruggles,
No.
Ms. Sultana,
Abstain.
Mr. Brown,
No.
Mr. Ettinger,
Aye.
Mayor Panto,
No.
Mr. Pinnabone,
Aye.
Mrs. Rose.
Aye.
It doesn't pass.
Yeah.
It can be reintroduced
Mm-hmm.
when if Councilperson Sultana finishes her investigation, feels comfortable, it can be absolutely reintroduced and you could vote again.
Again, for the audience, I am not against the intent of this ordinance. I just think that the ordinance becomes a law of the city, which is in direct violation to the law of the Commonwealth. I believe that we should be passing a resolution that lobbies for the legislature of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania to change the law.
My suggestion, by the way, would be if it's determined to put this back, to reintroduce it, at the same night, why don't you also put together a resolution? You vote on both of those. They're not inconsistent.
They're not.
And maybe you could throw in radar.
I'd love to throw in radar. I've been fighting that for 40 years.
I want to say something. I want to respond to Mr. Pintabone's statement about ceasefire. I know it's not we are not discussing that, but I don't want the misinformation to go out. I support the ordinance, bill number 46, but I know I requested to table it. But at the same time, ceasefire, it was a resolution. It was not an ordinance. And the resolution was to call on Congresswoman Susan Wild to call for ceasefire. It was a statement. It was a resolution, not an ordinance. So there is a difference between that. Just want to clarify that.
And I appreciate it. I'm very much aware, but my position still stands. It was a resolution to look out for people in another country, but we're failing to look out for them right here in Easton tonight.
Okay, new business, Madam Clerk.
Sure. We have a resolution approving outdoor dining program guidelines.
I'll introduce it. I'll move it.
Second.
Discussion?
Discussion. Anyone? He seconded?
Yeah.
Discussion on the outdoor dining. Mr. Kingsley, would you just come up and go over it? Just so they know what they're voting on?
So, this is the program we've been doing. This will be our 5th year doing the outdoor dining program. It is effectively, leasing parking spaces that are proximate to restaurants in the city for the purposes of providing outdoor dining capacity. As I said, we've done this for 5 years. The program really hasn't changed all that much from the beginning to where it is now. In fact, the only changes that you're seeing this year, we've changed the hours of for last seating to 9 o'clock for outdoor dining, and then we also we changed one aspect of the fee, offering a slight reduction in the fee for those requests that might involve spaces that are non-metered. So
Thank you. That's what I was going to ask you.
beyond that, the program is pretty much identical to the one that
The
you approved
amplification,
last year.
Music.
I'm sorry, what's that?
Music?
We did not change anything with the music, Mayor. We there's language in the guidelines that allows us to enforce that aspect. So.
Okay, any questions for Mr. Kingsley? Okay. I moved it, was seconded by Dr. Ruggles.
Ms.
Madam Clerk,
Ms. Sultana?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Eddinger?
Aye.
Mayor Panto?
Aye.
Mr. Pinnabone? Mrs. Rose?
Aye.
And Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
With bill number 50 to be introduced, an ordinance approving a 5-year lease between the City of Easton and 28 Fortune LLC, doing business as Hologram Zoo, Lehigh Valley.
Mr. Campos, isn't the lease longer? Has 5-year extensions?
Correct. Yep.
Okay, well, I think that should be in the in the bill. I mean, City Council isn't approving a 5-year lease; they're approving what could be a 29-year lease.
So, at the
Well,
end of the 5th
5-year
year,
lease, it has the
we go back.
in the lease, right?
Yeah, it has
Yeah.
in the lease.
We're approving the lease. So.
Refusal.
Yeah.
And you renegotiate after the 5 years, right?
Right.
Jeremy, is that okay? Okay.
No, Joel. Yeah, Joel reviewed it. but-
Okay. My only question is what it reads here is that we're approving a 5-year lease. It's not a 5-year lease.
Yeah, there's an option to extend
There's
it.
several options.
That's correct. So we could terminate the lease.
Okay.
In 5
But
years.
it's in the
I thought it was
lease.
only them.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what we're approving.
Yeah, it's at their discretion, not ours. Okay. Roll call.
There's no roll call, it's for.
No, it's
you have-
introduced.
I have a question on it. to either Mayor Lewis or even Kingsley, do we happen to know what the admission fee is going to be? Is it going to be affordable for local residents or more for guests and
What
tourists?
they say, $30 or so
I don't know.
for 45 minutes?
Yeah, they said it's.
Hour and a half.
It's
Hour and a
about, it's about that. I mean, they had presented a business case
Because
to the city, but I'm not.
I thought I read and heard also that they're still not stuck with that number yet,
Yeah.
as they're looking out, how far out they can go, New York, Philadelphia, till they get that market study back.
So to answer your question, it was in the high 20s. I saw a number at $29.
If they're still going to come back, if we can have our administration just, try to have them keep in mind, that we like to have something that's good for our residents and not just visitors.
Well, what we can do is
If
actually.
you just mention it to them,
You know what we can do? We can bring them in
that's fine.
for a presentation at a committee meeting.
That'd be good.
Since it's such an attraction, you guys should know about it.
That's fine.
Bill number 51, an ordinance detailing the proposed 2025 remaining ARPA budget funds.
So moved.
To introduce.
Is there a second?
It's introduced.
That was just for.
Oh, introduce, that's right.
The next item on the agenda is a resolution authorizing Easton DCED to apply for the Community Conservation Partnerships Program for the Easton High Line Acquisition Project.
So moved.
Second. Okay.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Eddinger?
Aye.
Mayor Panto?
Aye.
Mr. Pinnabone?
Aye.
Mrs. Rose?
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
And Mrs. Sultana?
Aye.
A res-
Backbone.
A resolution approving a proposal from In Situ Form to reline storm sewer pipes under the 800 to 900 blocks of Lehigh Street.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
Any discussion? No. Vote.
Mr. Eddinger?
Aye.
Mayor Panto?
Aye.
Mr. Pinnabone?
Aye.
Mrs. Rose?
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
Ms. Sultana?
Aye.
And Mr. Brown?
Aye.
A resolution allowing the Easton Area Joint Sewer Authority to reserve 31 parking spaces along Larry Holmes Drive during construction to install the new sewage main.
So moved.
Second. Roll call.
Mayor Panto?
Aye.
Mr. Pinnabone?
Aye.
Mrs. Rose?
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
Ms. Sultana?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Eddinger?
Aye.
Resolution authorizing equipment lease line of credit for the acquisition of essential equipment for the fire, police, public works, and other departments.
Move.
Second.
Mr. Pinnabone?
Aye.
Question, Hover.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Discussion.
Just on this contract, in reading it, Mayor, you are designated the president and.
Yeah, I meant to change it.
And
I
you
have
are
that.
the vice president.
Yeah, I see. I have it right on my paper here too.
So
That needs to be changed.
I think we need to change that to mayor and deputy mayor.
Yeah. I have it right here, Roger.
All right.
Any other discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Pinnabone?
Aye.
Mrs. Rose?
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
Ms. Sultana?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Eddinger?
Aye.
Mayor Panto?
Aye.
A resolution authorizing the purchase of a 2029 Pierce Enforcer pumper fire truck.
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Mrs. Rose?
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
Ms. Sultana?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Eddinger?
Aye.
Mayor Panto?
Aye.
Mr. Pinnabone?
Aye.
Any other discussion, public comments on anything affecting the city?
All right.
I know it's late, I just want to be brief with this, but since I'm here, I wanted to invite everyone to a very exciting symposium that we're holding on Thursday, March 20th at Northampton Community College. It will be the first day of their annual Peace and Justice Conference. The subject matter of the symposium is the intersection of mental health and criminal justice. We start off with a keynote address from the Honorable Susan Wild, who has an extensive record advocating for investment in mental health services programs. Then our first panel will be on mental health in our schools, how trauma-informed approaches to education are closing the school-to-prison pipeline. For that panel, we have Dr. Harrison Bailey III, recently appointed superintendent at Wilson Area School District and formerly principal at Liberty High School, where he developed a wellness center that in 1 year served over 700 students. Nick Samuetalis, who is the administrator of student support and wellness for the Bethlehem Area School District. Angelo D'Angelo, who is the executive director of the Center for Humanistic Change, which does work in virtually every school district in the Lehigh Valley. He was also the principal of Notre Dame High School until he took this new position. And finally, Ezra Hamanoff, who is a school psychologist and a consultant to Lehigh Valley Justice Institute on student mental health issues. The second panel is going to be on police mental health co-response, how an expanded view of public safety response keeps our community safe and gets services to those in need. On that panel, we have Susan Benet Berger of the Bethlehem Health Bureau and Michelle Cott, chief of the Bethlehem Police Department, who's implemented a very robust co-responder program. And we have two other panelists that we're still confirming for that. We're going to have a lunch program, and then in the afternoon, we have two panels which will run simultaneously. The first is the mental health crisis in our jails, how mental health issues need to be addressed by jails and be incorporated into the process of reentry into the community. 95% plus of everyone who's sitting in jail right now will be released into our communities, and we'd like to see that all be a seamless process. On that panel is the Reverend Dr. Philip Davis, no stranger to this body at all. Robert K. Reed, who's Deputy Attorney General and Chair of the Pennsylvania Reentry Council. Jose Rivera, who is the Community Outreach Coordinator for United Way of the Greater Lehigh Valley, also one of our board members, and a former member of the Latin Kings and has a very compelling story of redemption to tell. And finally, Dr. Joseph Roy, former Bethlehem School Superintendent, who's now a volunteer at Northampton County Jail. And at the same time, we will be doing a panel on reimagining roles in the criminal justice system. Our panelists for that panel include the Honorable Elizabeth Hay, U.S. Magistrate Judge for the Eastern District of Pennsylvania, and the designer of a mental health diversion program for this district of the federal courts. Gavin Holohan, who is the District Attorney of Lehigh County and is very much invested in reentry programming as part of his job as a prosecutor. Kim McCool, who's the Chief Public Defender, who has 2 full-time social workers on her public defender staff and takes a very holistic approach to criminal cases and the needs of defendants in those cases. And finally, Vertel Martin, who is the director of NAC's Criminal Justice Program, formerly NYPD Internal Affairs Officer, and she also served as liaison to the 9/11 victims' families. So we think it's going to be very exciting. We invite you all to come for all or part of it. If you'd like to register for it, you can do so at our website, www.lvji.org. On the second day of the conference, we will be presenting a really innovative injustice map of the Lehigh Valley, which deals with issues such as education, healthcare, school spending, etc. Environmental justice. I don't know. I guess she's left. But anyway, and we put that all out on the map, and you can see neighborhood by neighborhood who's affected, along with the demographics of neighborhoods. Also, NAC is going to be showing on that Thursday night a film on the Central Park 5. And they also have a gentleman, Mr. Nakamura, who has an NGO that does extensive work around the world on issues that until 2 months ago, the United States government was interested in funding. Anyway,
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
looking forward to it.
If you can
Thank
make it or make part of it, whatever, please do. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Council and staff. Brett Weber, I'm a resident of College Hill, 120 Morrison Avenue. I'm here tonight to, number one, congratulate the mayor on a really detailed and positive report on the city. As a resident in the city and a business owner here, I'm an architect. I'm proud to be here. I'm excited to be here. And I've become a new champion of the city and of the valley. And one of the things that I think it sits before you tonight that I shared with you that I wanted to share with the public, and I'm only disappointed that we lost our economic development team, but I'll get to him, is a special conference. I represent All Aboard Lehigh Valley, which is a newly reestablished nonprofit entity. We've actually just received fiscal nonprofit sponsorship through HSI here in Lehigh Valley, but we're based in Easton, and the focus of our initiative is the return of passenger rail in Lehigh Valley. And I come to this as an architect and as a planner, but also as a passionate rail advocate from the professional side. I sit as one of 5 Pennsylvania Council representatives for the Rail Passengers Association, which is a 50,000 member association based in Washington, D.C. And like the mayor who was in Washington, I'll be in Washington in my own way, advocating for this initiative and for proper funding in our national meeting on the 24th and 25th of this month. And I will be meeting directly with our newly elected Senator McCormick and Representative McKenzie. But one of the things that I wanted to share tonight is this Lehigh Valley briefing, which is we're holding at Lafayette College. It's next Thursday. It's a morning breakfast included and a panel of discussion. The interesting guests that we have, importantly, have been weighing into information, as I also sit on the Lehigh Valley Transportation Study as a public member. We have Jim Matthews, President and CEO of Rail Passengers Association, and Meredith Richards, Chair of the Rail Passengers Association, and Joseph Barr, who's Director of Network Planning East for Amtrak. So All Aboard Lehigh Valley has been in constant conversations with Amtrak over the last year to bring them to Easton and to bring them to the Lehigh Valley Transportation Study. Our group has met with the Federal Rail Administration, with 7 representatives from the FRA, notwithstanding an unknown period of federal funding for this. One of the things that I think is really important for people to be educated about is the state imperative for this, and the efforts that we have are to support reintroduction of passenger rail on an existing network of rail in an existing area of right-of-way. And one of the things that this breakfast will do is it's going, and this, what we're calling the briefing all morning, is to share examples around the country of where state-sponsored initiatives and state-funded rail initiatives have helped these projects get really the boost that they need. And I'll just offer that we're planning a full-blown rail summit in October on the 14th that will be a full day, and we're engaging the mayors from, Mr. Mayor from Easton as in their host city here, and the mayor of Bethlehem and Allentown, and our county executives and commissioners. It's a really important thing. The one thing that I take away from your presentation, Mr. Mayor, is our focus should be on the future, and that's where we are pushing this issue. And there are sort of 3 key things to take away from the conversations that we're facilitating. One is that it's viable. There's a quantified cost, and we know it better than we ever did before because Amtrak's doing much more of the construction. There is a really compelling business case to be made for reintroduction of passenger rail. It's about job creation. It's about sustainable, smart growth. And it's about quality of life. All of the things that you spoke to in your presentation tonight about neighborhoods and kids being able to play. Rail is the key to Lehigh Valley being able to embrace what Lehigh Valley Planning Commission has assessed as a really significant growth trajectory in population. And rail is one of the most important components of us dealing with the environmental impacts of growth and traffic and mitigating those things. So I appreciate your time. I hope some or all of you could attend. We would be grateful for your presence, so thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate you coming. This is a great idea also. I've been involved with passenger rail since 1984. And back then it was a dream. It's getting closer to reality. And I think you'll have all three mayors there. I'll give them a call myself too.
We greatly appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody knows I was in Washington and I had to get home and I didn't have my car. And so I usually take a train to Wilmington instead of Philadelphia, and I should have taken the train, but if I could have taken the train to Easton, it would have been great. I would have walked right up the steps to my house.
May I start?
Name and address, please.
Hello, thank you. My name is Ronald. I live in Washington Street.
Ronald, your last name?
Johnson? Ronald Johnson.
Thank
Sorry
you.
about that.
That's okay.
Thank you. So I'd like to start by thanking Easton City Council for being accessible. And I want to take a moment to honor the life of a sacred and beautiful 11-year-old girl named Jocelyn Rojo Carranza, whose life was taken away from us. She was killed. She was murdered by bullies who hurled insults at her, claiming her family was here in the U.S. illegally, making her feel powerless, hopeless, helpless. Despair, depressed, and ultimately forcing her to take her life to end the pain. She is one amongst thousands of our community's martyrs at the hands of fascist violence. Hatred is inflicting our kids with profound trauma, anxiety, and depression. Her martyrdom makes me reflect on my own childhood here in our industrious city of Easton, which we all love. I would like to share these reflections before the council. So growing up here, I had the privilege of, being a tenant, lived in the second floor of a really beautiful apartment complex. And I lived by the motto of loving thy neighbor. And that was easy to do because my neighbors were amazing and great. And I really appreciate the solidarity and love that they showed me. And I had amazing friends as a kid. And I had a great mother and father who were willing to work 2 jobs if necessary to make the rent. And they did that many years. And I'm a U.S. citizen, and I come with all the privileges and opportunities that provides me. My mother and father are also U.S. citizens. But simultaneously, growing up here in the city of Easton, many of my best friends, loved ones, family members, neighbors, people I love, did not have this piece of paper, which did not make them less decent, did not make them illegal, and did not make them a criminal. And with that, I wanted to say that I wanted my friends and people I love and cared about to have the same opportunities and privileges that I enjoyed as a kid. And a piece of paper does not make anyone less or more prone to criminality. When I look at my childhood, I look at, I remember, unfortunately, one bad experience out of billions of amazing experiences. I was jumped as a kid by bullies, right? And they kicked me in my private area and threw slurs at me like illegal, like wetback, like beaner, like spick. And these slurs, as a young kid, as a young boy getting their privates beaten, made me cry, made me feel less human. And I say that to say that the slur specifically affected me because there's a power dynamic there. The word illegal implies a certain level of legality, right? And unfortunately, in our society, and in any society in the world, legality is not a measurement of justice. It's a measurement of power. And many people in my community do not have power. We're powerless. Many of people in my community are voiceless. And I say that to just say that for me, it's crucially important that every member of our community feels welcomed in our city, especially the most vulnerable workers amongst us. So I'd like to thank everyone for your time.
Thank you.
And I'll just
Before you go, let me be the first one to apologize for what you went through. That is uncalled for. You are a human being, and you are a part of this society. And in this time, it's very important that you understand that you're somebody. Walk with your head up.
Thank you, Council.
Anyone else like to address City Council? Name and address.
Good evening, Asher Chavone. I'm with the Greater Lehigh Valley Realtors, who's been mentioned tonight. First of all, just want to say that, Mayor, we certainly love to hear that more inventory is coming to Easton. We've been saying a lot that we have an inventory problem, not so much an affordability problem. So we're glad to hear that these projects are getting online and moving forward. So I did want to, just thank council for obviously pulling the ordinance. I think it was 48, the landlord engagement program. I really didn't want to come up here and speak. I really didn't, but I had to because I did want to clear the record on what exactly happened, because there's this notion out there that the realtors requested an exemption for this ordinance. We didn't like the answer we got, so we got an attorney involved, which that doesn't tell the whole story, and that's not true. So again, I wanted to clear our name to this council and to the public as well. So it's true that when this first came out, I came to the committee meeting and we had 24 hours notice, which, sunshine law, that's all good. But we had 24 hours to review the actual legislation. So when I came to you, I came with feedback from our members as far as the concerns that they had. And the concerns that I emailed all of you, it is true. I said that, our members take extensive training. New members are exposed to training from North Penn Legal on fair housing issues. Our members take 3.5 hours of fair housing every 3 years. I think it's gonna be every 2 years now. So it is true that we said, hey, does that satisfy the mandatory requirement? At the same time, we also sent it to our attorney. We have an attorney in-house. He reviews a lot of stuff, as your solicitors review all the time. And it's unfortunate that we couldn't get back a proper legal analysis in 24 hours, but again, it takes a little bit more to dive into it. So anyway, once we got the letter from our attorneys basically stating that this ordinance is impermissible under state law, the landlord engagement program requiring a mandatory training on business enterprise, and the fact that a home rule municipality can't actually make an ordinance like this, that's when we obviously sent it to the council solicitor, and that's obviously when the ordinance got pulled. So this notion that we didn't like the answer that we got, so we went out and got ourselves an attorney, is not factually true. It doesn't tell the whole story, because we ran both tracks at the same side. All that I had to speak about with authority was the public policy side, not the legal side. And, nowhere in that letter, and, the solicitors could certainly correct me if I'm wrong, but we never threatened to sue the city of Easton. We wanted you to know that, hey, it appears that this violates state law. There's recent case law the city of Pittsburgh tried something similar, where they were found that it was the state statute was validated, or whatever kind of language you want to use, in the courts. So we wanted to bring this to your attention, stating, hey, it's always better to find out something is impermissible according to state law before it's passed and voted on, rather than after. So, you know, I know there's a lot of angst and a lot of, I think, anger at our association for bringing this up. Maybe not. I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth. Maybe that's not the case. But, you know, we certainly wanted to look out for the taxpayers of the city of Easton and just say that if this is reintroduced as a voluntary program or something, you know, we are glad that, you know, more people are getting to know their rights, landlords, tenants. We hope everybody takes the class, especially now with the increased resources that it sounds like we have to actually, you know, get this program out in the community, get it to the landlords who actually, you know, want to learn more and want to, you know, make sure that they're doing the right thing per state law. So anyway, I just wanted to again say that we'll obviously encourage that if that comes along as far as the voluntary training. But again, just wanted to clear the air, clear the record, because there's a notion put out there that, you know, it sounds great in social media and great in the headlines, I'm sure, but it's not what actually happened.
Asher, if I may ask a question, just because sometimes I get times confused. I know you said you only had 24 hours, and if that's the case, I apologize. I believe myself and Haley from the RDA met with you and your group 2 weeks prior.
You did.
We explained to you what was there.
Yep.
We told you it would be on committee. We told you to be on, and then it would be a vote the next day. So I'm not sure where you had 24 hours. My math says about 2 weeks. So I just want to make sure we're clear. We didn't tell you, and then 24 hours we went to a vote. There was about 2 weeks. So I just want to make sure we're representing that correctly, if that's what we're doing.
No, that's correct.
Okay.
And in the committee meeting, I thanked you and Ms. Weber for
Right.
coming in and talking to our
Absolutely.
association. I'm talking about the actual ordinance, the actual language of the ordinance. We didn't have the draft.
But you knew it was mandatory for the landlords because you came and asked if you guys could be excluded in the committee, so you knew that ahead of time.
We knew.
I'm making sure. I just want to get the 24-hour thing correct. I want to make sure that everybody knows you weren't blindsided. You knew exactly what was there 2 weeks prior.
We knew the intent of what was going to be proposed, but we didn't have the actual language. So we couldn't provide it to our attorneys and say, hey, see if this is legally permissible, when there was no draft language. But
I will make sure the next one gets to you very early.
Okay.
And I'm sure you guys will love it.
And I'll take the blame for the exemption for realtors, because I went through the courses and I took the test, I passed the test, but I never pulled my license. The training that I went through certainly covered everything that we wanted to cover. So I'll take, and I said to Mr. Pinnabone, I said, well, what about, why not exempt it? If you have a real estate license, you're exempted. And that was found out to be not true either. So
I just thought, Mayor, that talking, it wasn't legal, I guess, from our attorneys. And I think talking to the other members that drafted it, unfortunately, and Mr. Chavon, I think you would agree, a license doesn't necessarily mean you care about the community you're making your money in or the residents around. So that's why we kind of said we don't want to pick and choose who gets to take it. We want to make it universal to benefit our city. So that's why we just didn't exempt.
And I was trying to find a win-win as well. Like I threw it out there. I didn't know if it was going to be acceptable. If it was, great. If not, okay. I wish we would have had the legal analysis done before I talked about the policy, but just based on the timing, that didn't work. So that's why the timing seemed the way it did. Okay. All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Asher.
Thank you.
Anyone else like to address City Council on city business, on city comments, concerns, or questions?
Mayor, can I say something?
Sure.
Just for the record, I know we discussed the decriminalization of marijuana. So just for the record, I do want to mention I fully support the decriminalization of marijuana. That's why I requested to table it. So hopefully we can have more discussions. We can have, we'll be able to clear a few things out. And then maybe if Mr. Pintabone decided to bring it back, then hopefully it'll get passed. That's all I want to say. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Anyone else? Any business come before City Council that was on the agenda?
Move to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Move to second. Roll call.
Mrs. Rose?
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mayor Panto?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Ettinger?
Aye.
Mr. Pinnabone?
Aye.
Ms. Sultana?
Aye.